transits, these rotational planets. Around these parts we got high standards. Seeking the truth, wisdom at once. We're coming from the stars above. This is Moonday Tarot, the one and only Kelly Volcana. I hope you're ready for some giggles. And of course, we hope you got some wiggles. Strap in and get ready for some cosmic wisdom of ancestral understandings. Moonday Tarot.
Moonday Tarot. Hey guys, happy Monday. Happy Monday. Alright, let's get going here. So, what is happening? Yeah, where's everybody from? I saw New Mexico and New York in the chat. It's cold in New Mexico, eh? Do you guys get snow? You get snow, right? When does it usually snow for you? We have had snow on the ground here since Monday last week. I believe it was snowy actually as I was streaming last week. Anyway, happy Monday. Good to see you guys. Yeah, let's see what's going on this week. We've got 3 really big kind of major transits happening all within a very short time span. Yeah, sorry for the ignorant question. I've never been to New Mexico. I have no idea. But yeah, so 3 kind of really big transits happening, one after another. 2 of them happening on the same day. So we'll definitely be talking about all of that. I think the biggest news of the week will be relating to the Saturn stationing direct. Thus the title, Saturn stations direct. So before I get into what's going on for the rest of the week, kind of just want to ask everybody, how was the eclipse on Saturday? Did you notice anything? Did you see any kind of like omens, or did anything specific happen? Does anybody have any stories to share? My Saturday actually was pretty uneventful. I definitely noticed the Mars-Jupiter opposing energy. There was definitely some heated words that were exchanged on Saturday, and a little bit of spiciness occurred. But it was nothing super explosive for me. It was nothing super crazy. But I know I was sitting in a restaurant having lunch, and was watching the news. The news was playing on one of the TVs. There's a lot going on. A lot of very Martian-related things happening. Specifically in the States. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. There were like 2 or 3 shootings within a really short time span that were like really highly publicized. So that was really interesting to watch. Interesting and tragic, obviously, but yeah, that eclipse energy is no joke. But yeah, anyway, I'm curious if anybody has any stories they'd love to share. I'd love to talk about it. But in the meantime, let's bring up the chart of today, of right now. That's tomorrow. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, we got a little bit of lag going on. Also, make sure you guys send the link out to some people. Tag your friends. Tell everybody what's going on. Moonday Tarot is back, baby. Starting an hour later, but still here. Still doing our thing. Make sure you hit the like button. When the stream is over, leave me a comment. Those are always super appreciated. It lets the algorithm know that they should be recommending my content, which is very helpful for me, trying to build back up. Anyway, this is the chart for right now. Oh, wait. Hold up. No, it's not. This is the chart for right now for where I'm sitting in Calgary, Alberta, which is in Mountain Time. So apologies to everybody else that's not in Mountain Time, but that's the way that I operate. So right now we have 28 degrees of Sagittarius rising on the horizon, with the sun reaching the MC at 7 degrees Scorpio. So we've already experienced the Mercury Mars conjunction opposing Jupiter that happened pretty much right at the same time as the eclipse, which is kind of wild. Now both of these planets are getting ready to oppose Uranus. So that won't happen until a little bit later, but we're definitely in like this build up phase where there's this explosive energy kind of building. And this can be explosive in a good way or explosive in a negative way. It totally depends. On a mundane level, not expecting it to play out super lovely. But on a personal level, these are the kind of aspects that you can really use to launch yourself forward and break free. That's a Uranus kind of theme, breaking free. And shattering is another great Uranus word, shattering the old paradigm of something, right? So breaking free and individuation, and especially breaking free from bonds, something that's been bonding you or holding you back. That will be something that we can focus on a little bit later, and it's kind of just in the air and working its way through the collective psyche at the moment. So that'll be interesting. But anyway, this week. Oh, what's up, Donut? Mountain Standard Time too? Sick. Donut, where are you at? What state are you in? Out of curiosity. Alright, so before we get there, the first thing that we'll actually experience this week will be the Sun Jupiter oppositions. That won't be for a couple of days here, so I'm just going to scroll ahead. A couple of days. One more. So actually on the 2nd of November, so Thursday, 2nd of November, we have the Sun opposing Jupiter. So this actually marks the halfway point in Jupiter's retrograde cycle. So Jupiter will be retrograde until the Sun reaches Capricorn. So the outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and all of the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, blah, 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 Pluto, all of those asteroids, they all will retrograde for approximately 1/3 of the year as the Sun reaches approximately a trine, and then until it gets to the next same element trine, essentially, it'll be retrograde. So as the Sun is moving into an opposition with Jupiter, this is the halfway point. Archetypally, okay, so you can think about this symbolically as Jupiter is reaching full maturity, right? It's the opposition with the Sun. So in relation to its cycle with the Sun specifically, because this is the halfway point, it's almost similar to a full moon in energy, okay? So with Sun Jupiter oppositions, we tend to see, usually it's actually a pretty nice outcome. Usually it's a decent kind of energy that's expressed. Jupiter is usually pretty positive. Usually. You'll note I've said that word a lot because this opposition has Mars and Mercury involved as well. So it's not the pure expression of a Jupiter opposition. But anyway, let's just talk about that first. So Sun Jupiter, we tend to see really big archetypes come to the forefront. It is the energy of leaders kind of stepping into the limelight, you could say. It is the energy of really big decisions being made. As far as like mundane astrology goes, on the collective level, you'll see really big decisions coming from judges or lawmakers and stuff like that happen when we have a big aspect like that with Sun and Jupiter. On our personal level, I mean, this can be extremely encouraging for a lot of people to have the sun opposite Jupiter like this for a day. It can help us to be more courageous or be more bold, right? It can definitely help us with expanding our ideas around some philosophy that we're learning, or just seeing things from a greater vantage point and really understanding things on a larger scale. It can, unfortunately, there's always at least one kind of a negative side with any kind of aspect, right? It can be taken too far. So that's the only real danger with a Jupiter Sun opposition, is it could definitely be taken too far. So you can go way overboard with excess, right? And if you think about Zeus as an archetype by himself, right? Uh, we have plenty of mythologies of Zeus going way overboard. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as we're reaching Thursday this week. You don't want to go too overboard with something, but at the same time, if it is helping you, again, there's the energy of Uranus kind of involved. If it's helping you break free from something, right? If it's helping you move on from something perhaps that's been holding you back, then go for it, do it. Just be aware that there are other people's perspectives and other people's feelings and other people's there's other people around you, basically. You're not the center of the universe. Arizona, nice. Arizona doesn't do daylight savings? That's wild. What's up, Crypto Tales? Good to see you, buddy. So anyway, Thursday, I think Thursday will be a little bit, I'm hoping that it's more of a fun day for most of you guys. Do keep in mind, because there is Mars and Mercury on the side with the sun, that okay, Mars Mercury can be very precise. Okay, it's like making an extremely fine incision, especially in Scorpio. Right, we have the cutting action of Mars and the precision of Mercury. Mercury is great for breaking things down and dividing things and labeling things, right? It's very precise, looking at things on a small, detail-oriented way. That's very mercurial. Combine that with Mars, and then you got the cutting with precision in Scorpio, even more so. So I guess I would say just to be cautious about when it comes to things like your beliefs, which is a very Jupiterian thing. When it comes to things like your beliefs or trying to express your viewpoint to people, try not to be so pushy or so how do I want to say this? Try not to just bulldoze other people, right? Because that is definitely a possibility with this kind of combination of archetypes. It's just like, your opinion actually doesn't matter, and I don't care what you think, this, and this. I'm always right and you're wrong, fuck you. Right? So be careful of that. Otherwise, try to channel this energy into breaking free from something, right? We're trying to wrap up this chaos of this this Taurus Scorpio axis in our lives from the eclipses there, right? So this, you can view this opposition as a really good opportunity to kind of finish clearing things out, to finish whatever purging process you kind of began with the eclipses on that axis a couple of years ago. And when it comes to expressing your beliefs, just make sure that you're not bulldozing people. That's really all I got to say about that. All right. And a couple days later on Saturday, there's two aspects happening simultaneously. All right. The first is that Venus is perfecting an opposition with Neptune. So that will be really interesting. So I'm going to talk about that first. Venus is in this really interesting sandwich, okay? So first, she trines Uranus. So that'll happen kind of earlier in the week. So there's this kind of like, if you've ever experienced a Venus-Uranus contact, or you have something like that in your own chart, you'll know what I'm talking about. It can be like sudden love, it's very unexpected, sudden energy of like, wow, I really love this thing, but it's not necessarily something that lasts forever, right? It's not necessarily something that is going to stick around for a long time. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Okay, it's it's really unpredictable with Uranus. But anyway, we have this really nice trine with Uranus, and then this opposition with Neptune, and then immediately after that opposition, Venus will trine Pluto. So we kind of have this really interesting story playing out with Venus, where she's in a sign where she doesn't do as well. And this isn't to say if you are someone that has Venus natally in Virgo that's bad. There's lots of really excellent things about Venus and Virgo, but it's not Venus's home temple. All right, the mercurial signs, as I was describing Mercury earlier, is about dividing things and being super intellectual, whereas Venus wants to feel the pleasures of the body, right? She wants to feel the sweetness and the softness of things. She doesn't necessarily want to have an intellectual debate about the merits of soft versus hard. She just wants to feel the soft, okay? So while she's in there, it's not that we can't experience Venusian things, it's just that there's a little bit more of a challenge with it. So we have this interesting trine with Uranus, where all of a sudden there's something new being introduced to our environment, or like a new scent, or because it's Uranus is also in an earth sign, so a new scent or a new way of cooking something or something like that. And it's fairly pleasurable. Like maybe you find a really cool recipe and it's super scientific and you have to be very precise with it in order to get it right, but you nail it and it's banging. Okay, like you finally nailed that sourdough, for example. Okay, and then Venus makes this opposition with Neptune. And again, this is one of those things where if you have a natal Venus-Neptune contact, or you've experienced Neptune transiting your Venus, this is a very specific archetype that you're definitely familiar with. Neptune brings in this kind of foggy, kind of illusory, really difficult to grasp energy. It makes things sometimes look way prettier or way nicer than they actually are. It can make us or not make us, but inspire us to be a little bit self-deluding about things. Personally, I'm experiencing this kind of a transit right now. It's interesting. You think one thing, right? You're like, okay, I'll never do blank again. Or I'll never, like, okay, let's use the example of love, because we're talking about Venus after all. I'll never date blank kind of an archetype again, or I think I learned my lessons about this particular pattern that I have, and I'm never going to do that again. A little bit down the road, you experience this interesting Neptune contact, and then all of a sudden, something is presented to you where it doesn't. It's the ultimate appearances can be deceiving transit. It's like something looks really nice. They don't appear to be following the same patterns as what you were trying to avoid from before. And then all of a sudden it comes to the surface that maybe there was some deception. And really, maybe the deception wasn't even them. Maybe it was actually you lying to yourself about whatever that situation may be, right? It's like you just wanted to see the best. And really that's what this kind of transit makes me think of. You just want to see the best in a situation or in a person, and you'll ignore all the red flags. That is definitely a thing. So you'll ignore all the red flags, and then next thing you know, you're kicking yourself because, wow, I just fell for the exact thing that I said I would never do again. Here we are. That is what's happening on Saturday. Okay, so as we're dealing with that, and I mean, that's kind of the more negative way that it can play out. On the more positive side, like let's say you see through that, you recognize that is a pattern that's playing out, and you're like, okay, no, I remember what Kaylee said. I'm not going to fall for this time. And like this could be, it doesn't have to be love, right? It can be a financial thing that looks really good and ends up not actually being that great. It could be somebody making you a promise, and they're saying all the right words, and it appears that they're doing the right actions, but they're less than upfront about certain details or whatever. Like maybe half the thing that they're trying to sell you doesn't actually belong to them, like something like that, right? But let's say you catch this pattern. This can be a really beautiful aspect for accessing different kinds of states of consciousness, okay, through meditation or through whatever methods you choose to go with, okay? Accessing different states of consciousness is definitely something that you can do with this, okay? Especially Venus in a Mercury sign. So that's kind of one thing, right? You can meditate with it and feel into, because Venus is in an earth sign, feel into something different, something alternative. This can also be a really healing aspect, right? Like we don't want to shit on Neptune too much. There is a really a soothing aspect to Neptune's archetype. It can be very healing. Usually what ends up happening usually is you experience the negative effects, because Neptune is definitely a trickster archetype. You'll experience the negative effects first because it's trying to ultimately bring you to a point of self-empowerment. But it usually happens that you don't experience that side of it right away. It's usually the other side of it that you experience, and then it brings you around, or eventually you come around on your own to be like, oh, there's the lesson. I get it. Okay. On that same day, Saturn stations direct at 0 degrees of Pisces. Hey, what's up? Still standing? Good to see you. So, Saturn turning direct. This is a big deal. This is the first stationing direct of Saturn in Pisces. Since Saturn entered Pisces, all right, we talked about this quite a bit when it happened. Some of the themes that we saw, or that I said we would see, would be themes of polarity, specifically within religion and some of our spirituality and our beliefs, right? Saturn deals with polarity, Saturn deals with duality, Saturn deals with opposition. So it's just talking about two different oppositions, and it's interesting that is the theme of the week, is the opposition, because Saturn, the opposition is said to be of the nature of Saturn in traditional Hellenistic astrology. So that's kind of neat. Okay, anyway, side note. So anyway, we have this theme of oppositions, but specifically within the sign of Pisces. Okay. What is Pisces? Pisces has to do with the nebulousness of spirituality. It has to do with, it can be a highly compassionate sign, or it can be a highly delusional sign, right? There's a lot of magic within the sign of Pisces. There's a lot of dreaming in the sign of Pisces. But Saturn is about reality. Saturn is about boundaries. Saturn is about discipline. Saturn is about duality and looking at both sides of the equation, right? Pisces, and people especially with that have a lot of Pisces placements, they're like, no, duality is so 3D. We don't want duality. But Saturn is here to remind you that you have a 3D body. You have to experience the 3D. So it's in the sign of Pisces. And on one hand, we have some really intense dogmatism coming up, right? And it's really, really easy with Saturn and going through Pisces to think, I'm not being dogmatic, they're being dogmatic. And do you feel with that how that is exactly playing into that exact same archetype? Like, no, I'm not the problem. That person outside of me over there is the problem. It's really intense. It's really intense, and it's quite potent. So anyway, Saturn stationing retrograde, I actually feel like, I don't know, there's a couple of ways that people tend to look at the malefic, the quote unquote malefic planets, turning retrograde and turning direct. I really feel like Saturn can be more constructive when he is direct. Okay, so Saturn turning direct in Pisces, I don't feel like that's going to be us turning up the volume on the dogmatism and the polarity within the spiritual communities. on the religious communities, I actually feel just like that's going to help us reassert boundaries. I feel like it's going to help us ground ourselves again, right? And bring ourselves back to reality. That's what Saturn and Pisces, I feel, is going to be like, turning direct again. But either way, Saturday, it's kind of a big day. We have this potentially really diluting archetype happening at the same time as Saturn turning direct. I really feel like that's kind of a saving grace, honestly. Saturn stationing is kind of a big deal. Personally, I'm going to be watching the news on that day to kind of just see what happens. And I mean, I'm going to take this down for a second. When Saturn stationed retrograde, you guys will probably remember about the submarine. Remember that? The submarine, all of a sudden, we were wondering where the submarine went. And turns out that it imploded like almost right away. That was Saturn stationing retrograde, where people dove down into the abyss, essentially. And then communication was cut off between the submarine and the surface. And then it was this big mystery, and it overtook the news for like a couple of weeks. That was Saturn stationing retrograde. Okay, Saturn stationing direct. I don't know. We'll see what kind of news comes out, but should be interesting. Wouldn't be surprised if we see this week some interesting stuff, specifically about boats or some other kind of submarine or some kind of submarine event, or maybe even a discovery is uncovered, something like that. Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much it for this week, as far as major transits go anyway. Yeah, next week we got a bunch more stuff happening. The beginning of November is really interesting, and I just want to kind of give you guys a bit of a heads up. Speaking of dogmatism and polarity within religious sects, as these planets, as Mercury and Mars and then the Sun move into Sagittarius, as soon as they move into Sag, they're going to be squaring off with Saturn. Okay, so we're going this theme of different religions and different belief structures coming head to head and combating one another is not going to stop right away. Okay, it's going to continue. It's not something that's going to be resolved right away. It's probably going to continue especially while these squares are occurring between Sag and Pisces. So just kind of a heads up, right? Don't expect it to just blow over and be all good in the hood. It's not going to be. However, there is some other really nice things coming up. Venus will be moving into Libra, so that will be that'll be a really nice change. That'll be okay. So since Venus went retrograde in Leo over the summer, it'll be the first time as Venus moves into Libra where Venus is super well dignified. Is out of the what modern astrologers are calling the shadow zone, because as soon as Venus left quote unquote shadow, which I'm not sure I really believe in, but as soon as she left shadow, she entered Virgo, where it's nice, like I said, but Venus is considered to be in fall in Virgo. So as she's moving into Libra, the sign that she rules, it's going to be a lot easier to access those Venus themes and use Venus to our benefit. So that is something that's really positive that's happening later in the month. And hopefully will be helpful to the mutable squares that'll be happening later on. So that would be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that, Wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. Especially once planets are in Sagittarius and are squaring with Saturn. Wouldn't be surprised. So, and I mean that's a really kind of standard strategy, right? Is blocking the shipping lanes. So, anyway, okay. So that's pretty much it for the astrology this week. I kind of feel like I understated the Sun Jupiter opposition, but maybe not. I don't think so. So yeah, do you guys have any stories about the eclipse? Was there anything that happened that really stood out to you over the weekend? And it's okay if not, too. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. So I think I'm going to talk about the Saturn station for the different signs. Because I feel like that is probably the most impactful thing. Yep. Just moving my chart back. Back to Saturday. November 4th. What makes this even more impactful, by the way, is as soon as Saturn stations, see the moon here is in Leo. So when a planet ingresses into a new sign, or stations to turn retrograde or stations to turn direct, it's said to saturate the chart. But the moon is the planet that is most closely associated with fortune and the body, and is said to be in the closest sphere to Earth. The moon making an aspect to that planet really solidifies and brings it to the forefront, brings it to our consciousness in a very real way. So anyway, as the moon is in Leo, right as Saturn is stationing, later that, a day and a half later, the moon will be directly opposing Saturn from Virgo. So I'll just move it forward to show you guys. Dun, dun, dun. So there's one day later. Bam, and then Monday around noon, the moon will ingress into Virgo. Excuse me, opposing Saturn, and then it'll really be bringing that station to our attention if it hasn't already been brought to our attention before that point. Good old Moonday. Okay. All right. Nobody's got any stories. Okay, that's cool. That is cool. Feel free if you're watching this after the fact, if you have a story about the eclipse you'd like to share, feel free to put it in the comments. I always appreciate them. I read them all of the time. One day my channel will be big enough where it'll be unhealthy for me to read those comments, but for now you guys are the best. So it's all good. Okay. All right. So as I get into these readings, we're talking about the Saturn stationing direct. Keep in mind, I am a tropical astrologer, so I'm talking about this from the tropical perspective. I'm training as a Hellenistic astrologer, so I'm using, especially for the horoscopes, we're using a whole sign technique. And I think that's pretty much it. The most important stuff anyway. All right, so Pisces. This is a big week for you. There's a couple of aspects happening that are really important and impactful. Okay. Actually, every single aspect that I talked about that's happening this week is going to directly affect you. So the first one I talked about, the Jupiter Sun opposition. So if you're a Pisces rising especially, Jupiter's your chart ruler, meaning that transits to and from Jupiter are really important because it's going to directly affect you and your body. Okay, so you can think of this first one that I talked about, the Sun Jupiter opposition, is kind of like you yourself, you are reaching a peak in something. Specifically, this is happening on the 3rd and 9th axis. So when it comes to your methods of transportation, or if you're learning something new, or if there's just been a really big focus on activities that happen in your neighborhood, there's it's almost like you yourself are reaching some kind of maturity, some kind of point of maturity with that particular aspect. People are probably going to want to know what you think about things. They're going to want to know what your beliefs are. There's going to be an opportunity for you to share some of those beliefs. Just keep in mind what I said about trying not to step on too many people's toes. Make sure that you're listening to other people's points of view as well, because there might be details that are really significant and important and impactful that you might otherwise miss. Okay, Saturn stationing direct in your first house. I think the biggest thing about this is really, since the first house represents your body and your health and your vitality and your personality and things like that. First of all, I guess a little bit of appreciation for you guys. It's not the easiest transit to experience, Saturn going through your first house. It brings you face to face with some of your own limitations. And some of the ways that you might have been holding yourself back are really kind of brought to the forefront, and you're forced to look at them. Why is this thing holding you back? What is it about some of your own habits, or some of the own things that you do? I guess that would be a habit that ends up causing you to self-sabotage or holding you back, or that's pretty much it. Saturn going through your first house and stationing direct like this, I feel is actually going to be a positive turn for you. Something that you have been struggling with immensely over the last couple of months, right? Since Saturn turned retrograde. So it's actually been more than a couple months. Sorry, it'd be 1, 2, 3, the last 4 months since Saturn turned retrograde. There's been this slow kind of process where it kind of feels like you're getting frustrated over and over again. This is Saturn asking you to slow down a little bit. All right. Now, Saturn turning direct, you're going to feel like things are finally able to move forward again. Right? It might be a slow process. We are talking about Saturn after all, but things will start moving forward again finally. And perhaps you have taken the time to do the inner work necessary to purge some of the things, or purge some of the habits, or some of the negative beliefs that you've had about yourself that have been holding you back and contributing to the pattern of self-sabotage. So all in all, that's actually a very positive change. Be very mindful, though, on Saturday, as Venus is also opposing Neptune, that I'd say that if there's any kind of contracts that you need to sign, that you are getting all of the details in writing, right? I would avoid a verbal agreement and handshake agreements this week, just so that you can be I don't know, just it's one of those things where it's better to be a bit of a pain in the ass than to think you're agreeing to one thing and getting another. Okay, when it comes to your dealings with other people, just be very crystal clear when making agreements, or when talking about boundaries, or when And when making agreements or talking about boundaries or making any kind of a deal with anybody, just be certain that you're both very clear on all of the terms and bounds of those agreements, okay? Ooh, good luck. So for cards, Pisces, got some interesting cards. We got the Nine of Swords, okay? Some strife, some sleeplessness, definitely some worry and some anxiety in that card. But then immediately after that, alchemy or art, the Temperance card, and then the Six of Cups. What's up, JLo? So I like this layout, exactly as I was saying. Saturn turning direct is going to be like lifting off a heavy weight from your shoulder. With the Nine of Swords is often like a little bit of insomnia coming up, or the things that keep you awake at night. But I see you transmuting exactly that thing, right? Whatever was holding you back, right? You've done something. You've been doing something, whether it's on an internal basis or an outward basis. You've gotten to the point now where whatever that thing was that was holding you back and keeping you up, you're dealing with it finally, right? And whether that's landing the job that you were looking for, like I said, good luck, or maybe it's just so subtle that it's not a really obvious thing at first, right? Whatever the case may be, you're transmuting that energy now. You're getting rid of that energy. And then we have this really beautiful, peaceful Six of Cups right after that, which is it's a balanced number. It's an easy flowing number. Like right in the artwork of this card, which I should have the light over here, my apologies, but right in the artwork of this card, we have these children innocently sharing these gifts. And it's not just like, I mean, they're flowers, they're beautiful, they smell nice, they're temporary. So I don't know, I kind of get this feeling of this week you might need to slow down and smell the flowers. Cheesy, I know, cliche, I know, I'm sorry. That's what it is. That's what's coming out. Take a little bit of extra time to appreciate some of the small things in life, right? Maybe lean into the more magical side of that Venus Neptune opposition, of remembering that every exchange with another person, whether it's romantic, whether it's business, whether it's just casual on the street, has a little element of magic there. There's a little bit or major impacts that you can have on other people's lives just by saying a little word or giving a smile, or, you know, especially as people are masking up as we're in flu season, like giving them a smile as you're passing on the street, even if they don't reciprocate. That's not really the point. Spiritually, there is some reciprocation. There's something happening internally, and that's kind of the more important thing, especially as Saturn is turning direct, and we have this really important churning and internal work that's occurring for you, Pisces. Okay. So Aquarius. So for you guys, Aquarius, if you're an Aqua rising, especially, Saturn is your ruling planet. So yes, let's say Uranus, but that's new school stuff, right? I'm talking old school. That's the big news for you guys this week, Saturn turning direct. Okay, so first of all, let's back up the bus a minute. The Jupiter-Sun opposition with all of this stellium chaos up in your 10th house. I actually think that this is going to be more of a positive opposition for you guys. There's something here about things going so well at home that it helps you reach up and out and achieve something maybe career-wise, or just maybe your position with some position that you hold that has some kind of authority, or some kind of responsibility that you have. It's like you're finally able to step into those shoes and achieve something up here, especially with the drive of Mars being there and the detail-oriented nature of Mercury. It's like just things kind of like falling into place for you. And Jupiter down at the bottom of your chart is supporting this, right? So I think that's a really nice aspect for you, actually. And then Saturn turning direct, if you have been feeling like since Saturn went retrograde in Cancer season that things just haven't been going your way, Saturn turning direct is going to really help you, okay? Especially since this is considered to be your chart ruler, right? So this is symbolic of you, okay? Aqua rising, Saturn represents you. This is symbolic of you turning around and taking a few steps forward finally, right? Rather than working against yourself or working against the grain, or just otherwise potentially struggling, especially if it comes to matters of money, finances, right? So Saturn in the second house, that's been the big theme for the last little bit, is how do I get my resources right? How do I get my income right? How do I get my expenses right and balance these books? So Saturn turning direct, whatever work you have put in this area is going to start paying off as Saturn turns direct. Okay, so that's great news. Great news. I would be especially careful, however, that if you are making deals with anybody or you have any kind of obligations to another person, that again, you are super crystal clear on the terms of that agreement. If you are being asked to participate or loan money, or especially loaning, we're talking about the 8th house, or go into debt for any reason, make crystal fucking clear that it's not something that's too good to be true, okay? That you know exactly all of the terms involved, you know the fee structure involved, or whatever the case may be, so that you're not getting roped into something that is going to bite you in the butt later, okay? J-Lo in the house. Crypto Tales, what state are you in? Are you in Vegas? So Nevada? Aquarius, first card out is the Lover's card. Temperance again. Interesting. Okay. All right, Aquarius. So you are really feeling into the nature of oppositions. Really feeling into the nature of oppositions, opposites, positives and negatives, yin and yang, victory and defeat, and singleness and togetherness. Why do I say that? The Lovers and the Temperance. The Lovers is a card of Gemini. Temperance is Sagittarius. These are naturally opposing each other on the zodiac. In the zodiac. Oh my god, in the zodiac. The theme of Gemini and the theme of Lovers is about making decisions. It is about looking at the two different sides of a thing. It is about mirroring other people, and how we often are attracted to our equal but opposite half. And then temperance. Temperance is straight up bringing two things together. You see here, 2 cups? 11 in the chat right now. I love it. So anyway, you're really, really feeling into those oppositions this week. And then we got 2 other cards. So we also got the 10 of Swords and Judgment. All right, these 2 came out at the same time. Judgment and the 10 of Swords. So again, the 10 of Swords itself is really interesting. This is a fascinating card to me because it is actually the moment right before the summer solstice, which is considered to be like a point of victory, yet at the same time, it's an ending, right? And then Judgment. So there's a really strong theme this week of, and actually, wow, you have 3 angels. These 2 are the same angel, I think. Actually, I think all 3 of these are the same angel. These are all Gabriel. No, I think these 2 are the same. And I think this is a different lady, but still an angel. Very similar wings. Wow. Okay. Aquarius, you're being guided by a higher force this week. There's a really important culmination point coming up for you where you're going to need to make a really important decision. Do you step up to the plate or do you give up and back off? I don't think the answer is give up and back off. I think you're supposed to lean into this one. The 10 of Swords coming out with Judgment tells me that there is a fairly difficult situation coming to an end, but I kind of feel like there's an important action and an important step, like I said, that you need to take. It might feel like it's a very painful thing, like a painful sacrifice, but I know that when you look back in retrospect at whatever led you up to this particular culmination point, if things had continued going in the same direction, then it would have actually been extremely detrimental. And I'll talk about it from another perspective for just a second. So imagine we're coming up to the summer solstice. And instead of the sun stopping and turning and going back down, it just keeps going. It just keeps going up and it just keeps getting hotter and the days just keep getting longer and we'd suddenly have no night at all and it's just all sun all the time and it's hot as fuck. Everything would burn, first of all. Everything would burn and we would get no rest, no respite. There's a beautiful balance between light and dark, day and night. This balance must be maintained, yin and yang. It can never be all yang or all yin. There must always be balance. I think, Aquarius, this is one of the themes that you are looking at this week and kind of exploring. So where is the point? Where is that culmination point, the tipping point, when things have to turn back around again and yin must come back in, right? And I really feel like Saturn going through Pisces for you guys is really you exploring the nature of yin, the nature of the feminine, the nature of the darkness. Highly impactful week for you. Best of luck. I guess I'll end this on for you, Aquarius, with you're definitely being watched over. You're not making this decision alone. And if you feel like you need guidance, if you feel like you need further guidance, send up a prayer. Never underestimate the power of a prayer. Okay. Dang, Aqua, that's some intense cards. I'm not gonna lie. All right, Capricorn. Hey, JLo, since you're a Taurus, did you notice anything for the eclipse this weekend? Have any stories to share with us? I know you're working, or cooking dinner or whatever it is you're doing right now. Yeah, if you have any stories, let me know. Okay, Capricorn. Da-na-na-na, Capricorn. All right, Cap. Woo-hoo. So, first things first, we have this Jupiter-Sun opposition on the same axis as the eclipses. Fun, fun, fun. I feel like for you, Capricorn, the biggest thing here is leaning into the things that you find pleasurable and enjoyable. And just knowing that doing those things and being authentic, right? There's a great Uranus word for you, authentic, about what it is that you enjoy is how you're going to align with the people that will assist you, that align with your own values, that will actually assist you in your continued growth. Okay. So really lean into this Jupiter in the fifth house energy, this culmination point, the Sun opposite Jupiter moment is meant to be a helpful thing, right? So really lean into it. You have a lot of talents, a lot of skills. Show people them. Don't be afraid. Lean into your artistic nature and whatever that art is for you. It doesn't have to be something like formal, like painting or or singing or whatever. But doing more of those things that you enjoy shamelessly is definitely going to be an assisting force. Be cautious about actually no, I don't think I really have any major words of caution for that. Just just those who mind don't matter, right? Those who mind don't matter. Just repeat that to yourself and don't worry about the rest, okay? Saturn turning direct, similar to Aqua rising, Saturn rising, or Capricorn rising, Saturn turning direct is a positive moment for you, okay? Super helpful. So Saturn in the third house, okay, this has been a big focus on, really needing to lean into your local neighborhood, right? What's going on in the neighborhood? Are you involved in your community? As far as your involvement in social media and broadcasting and stuff like that goes, focus less on the wide world, focus a little bit more on your local community, right? Build stuff locally. Fuck globally, think locally. That's a Gogo Bordello song, by the way. All right, so as Saturn is changing, turning direct in your third house, if you have had really any kind of like issues with your transportation, like let's say you've been having car troubles, as an example, or it's been difficult for you to connect locally with others, I feel like some of these issues will be kind of easing off a bit. Maybe you'll actually find the right part for your car, as an example, or yeah, I mean that's a great example. You finally find the right piece, the right part that you've been looking for. Okay, or some other mode of transportation opens up to you that wasn't available before, or something like that, right? But either way, Saturn turning direct is definitely a moment to celebrate for Capricorn rising. For you guys, anytime Saturn turns retrograde, it can be an extremely frustrating few months, which of course, this is for 1/3 of the year, every single year. So Capricorn rising is used to being frustrated, let me tell you. But anyway, Saturn turning direct, reason to celebrate, definitely. I would say with the Venus Neptune opposition, try not to be too dogmatic or too just too dogmatic, I think is the best way to sum it up. Try not to be too dogmatic with your own beliefs and with sharing those beliefs. It's okay to talk about things, to share things, to express your opinion on matters or whatever. Just make sure that you're doing so in a rational way. And this is kind of an opposition that can lead to miscommunications and miscommunications and people just misunderstanding the meaning that you're trying to convey. So try to slow it down a little bit. Maybe have things written out if you have to have any serious debates or conversation. um, and just double check the details of things. If you're in any kind of like course of study, use this energy to really dive into the mystical side of what you're studying. Right? Even if you're studying something that's not mystical in nature, I guarantee you there is an angle to that where it's true. Right? The deeper you get into math and the deeper you get into science, the further I feel you actually get to, or the closer you get to things of a divine nature, especially with math. So lean into that side of it, and that'll be a better transit for you. Word. That's interesting. I actually have a sore throat myself, like immediately after the weekend. Instant sore throat, not strep though. So hopefully and he's a freaking cutie. Oh my goodness. Hopefully he gets better soon. And yeah, if he's triple water, would not be shocked. What's up, Mercury? Mercury Mel, hey. Would not be shocked if he picks up things from, like energetically picks up things. So hopefully you got some good tea honey combos for him. What's up, Mel? I should be drinking tea right now, but I didn't make any. Okay. So cards for Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn. First two cards out, we got the King of Pentacles. King of Pentacles and the Star card. King of Pentacles, I really like to see that in a reading for you right now, Capricorn. It's serving this grounded, stable energy. Came out at the exact same time as the Star and actually hiding behind the Star. So I kind of feel like that's like there's these dreams and hopes and wishes that you have, and in order to achieve them, you need to stay grounded. Grounded in the practical. All right. Okay. It's interesting because I wasn't going to talk very much about the Sun, Mars, Mercury in the 11th house, but I think what's kind of important to note about that is when it comes to meeting people that align with our values and that can help us achieve some of our goals, some of our wishes, some of our dreams, star card type things. Wow, there's 11 in the chat again. Interesting. Having a practical approach, a practical plan can really help. It's that idea of just putting one foot in front of the other, right? Steadily as you climb in the mountain, and just knowing that it doesn't matter how much further you have to go, and it doesn't matter how far you have already come. The important part is to just keep fucking going, keep plugging in, keep putting one foot in front of the other. There's a healing and a soothing nature to the Star card. I really like that for you. It's like while you're practicing on the while you're focusing on the practical, while you're working towards, stabilizing your 3D experience, or furthering your saving account, or whatever the case may be. The star card coming out as well is like, don't forget to focus on the magical as well. Saturn is in freaking Pisces, okay? You have to focus on the magical a little bit. And something that we don't talk about very often, especially modern astrologers don't talk about this, Saturn is actually actually a very mystical planet. It was considered to be the furthest sphere from the Earth, right? And therefore the closest to the celestial sphere and the closest to the ideal perfection of the divine. Okay, so Saturn moving into Pisces is kind of reminding us of, hey, there's a deeply mystical side to the 3D physical reality. Don't forget about it. The star card coming out is like, you're going to be tapping into some of that nature. And then the third card that came out is actually the Hermit. So what I would say about that is, speaking of connecting to the physical, or connecting to the mystical through the physical, is don't forget about meditation, y'all. Saturn turning direct in the third sign. Third sign often talks about our environment, but can also talk about our mind and our mental state, which is usually a mirror of our environment after all, right? So as you're cleaning your environment and the external, it's going to help you with your internal, with the mental, but also the inverse is true as well. Sitting down for a regular meditation practice and reincorporating something like that, or checking in internally, if literally anything externally is happening and it's bothering you, checking in internally can help you resolve from both sides, right? Approaching any situation from both sides is probably the best way forward. So, yeah, there you go. What's also kind of cool about this is you got the star, right? And then he's got his own kind of star, right? He's got his own spiritual wisdom. He doesn't need an external source. He doesn't need anybody else to tell him about. Yeah, he doesn't need an external source. He doesn't need it from an external source. He already has it. He already has the knowledge within. So go within, Capricorn. That's what you need to do this week. Sag. All right, Sagittarius. So for you guys, again, if you are a Sagittarius rising, the first transit that I talked about with the Sun opposite Jupiter, this is a really important one for you, okay? Because Jupiter is your ruling planet. Therefore, Jupiter represents you and your body, okay? So symbolically, the Sun opposing Jupiter is you reaching a culmination point. It's you reaching some kind of peak. Some kind of, I guess peak is the best way to describe that. Now, this is happening in your 6th house, which of course is where we just had the lunar eclipse. So I know I don't need to go through what this house is again, but I kind of feel like if you have been dealing with any like health issues, if you've been dealing with anything that's really felt like, a huge drain on your energy, this opposition is going to kind of help you wrap things up, and maybe even like symbolically bring things to a head so that it can be popped and resolved and dealt with. That's pretty much it. Saturn turning direct So Saturn is sitting down in your fourth house right now. Um, as he's been retrograde since Cancer season, you probably have been experiencing a little bit of more difficulty with things around the property. Like fourth house can be quite literally the property that you own, where you live. If you're not a homeowner or whatever, it can be your rental property too. It could be talking about stuff with your parents, or it can just it's really it's your anchor. It's your anchor. It can be stuff with your ancestry, whatever. But the biggest, most obvious things is stuff with property and where you live. If there's been difficulty, if you've had some issues, maybe you needed to move and there were some interesting hiccups that you didn't foresee coming while in that process. Or let's say you had some serious plumbing issues, Saturn in a water sign. I could see blocked pipes definitely being a part of that equation for sure for some Sag risings. Whatever the case may be, Saturn turning direct is kind of like finding the solution, finding the correct pipe piece to replace, things that were really high pressure at home kind of easing off. Maybe you've taken on some extra responsibilities around the house, or the pressure to take on those responsibilities has been there, and it's almost like the pressure eases, or there's somebody in the household that kind of calms down a little bit, or I don't know. I'm just thinking I'm spitballing examples here, or or someone that's a little bit of a grouchier influence, kind of. They have like a bit of a change of heart, or they find some things to bring themselves joy or whatever, and they're less grumpy. And I'm talking about myself. I'm not even gonna lie. So there's something about your home life that kind of eases up a bit. All right, so I think that's a very positive change for you. Oh my goodness. Hi, Ketsu. Fix the pipes from shaking. Man, that'd be so annoying. Yeah, I'd be really curious what your rising sign is. Anyway, Sag, I think this is going to be a really positive change. Now, when it comes to on the same day, Saturday, Venus opposing Neptune, since this is happening in the 4th, 10th axis, I think this is important for you to pay attention to. When it comes to career, right, whatever you're doing for work or whatever it is that you're known for, just want to make that distinction. The 10th house doesn't have to be career if you're not working. That wouldn't make sense now, would it? But you still have a 10th house, don't you? It's what you're most known for. Your public reputation. Sometimes it can be significant of your mother, right? Especially in Hellenistic astrology. Mom can be seen from the 10th. But anyway, just to keep things simple for interpretation and time's sake, if there's something happening with your career where things seem really, really nice and beautiful and peaceful, I don't know, give it a little bit of time. It's I actually feel like this could be a really nice transit for you guys, almost like you weren't sure exactly what you were getting into. Maybe some of the details were muddy and murky, and it doesn't necessarily feel very nice. But then there's this kind of moment of some kind of connection that's made, or there's some kind of shift. Something happens at work, either right before the weekend or right after the weekend, where all of a sudden things kind of ease, and maybe even this is going to sound weird, but maybe some kind of policy or some kind of some kind of training that your bosses were undergoing that maybe you don't necessarily fully agree with somehow works to your benefit, that'd be kind of cool. But that's kind of what I'm seeing play out with this. But you have to be careful not to allow that same kind of policy that you just benefited from to bite you in the butt. So be careful, watch your words. Make sure that you're not overstepping bounds or being too obnoxious or uh, needlessly starting arguments when it would be better to just keep your mouth shut or whatever. So just be cautious about that, right? Protect your reputation, basically. Protect your reputation. That's all I got to say about that. Okay. Scorpio rising. Oh, okay. So as a Scorpio rising, the planet ruling your property would be Saturn. As a Aquarius would be the fourth house. So, Saturn turning direct is definitely indicative of finding the correct pieces to assist with something around the property. So that's kind of funny. I love that you know everybody's rising sign. That's really cool. And it's an old house. It's an old house. Of course you have an old house. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll get to Scorpio and you'll see why I'm like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. All right. So let's do some cards for Sag. Anybody else have any stories from the weekend? Did you notice anything for the lunar eclipse? What house is Taurus? Does it feel like you actually are wrapping up something in that house? Feel free to comment down below if you're watching this after the fact. I'd love to hear about it. If I get enough comments and enough people give me some stories, we can do a special episode just talking about eclipse stuff if you guys want. But gotta have more than like 1 or 2 stories for that. Okay, Sagittarius. What do we got for cards for you? Dun, dun, dun. King of Swords. Okay. Your words are highly impactful. The things that you say, people listen to. All right. You have an amazing amount of wisdom to share with others. Never underestimate that. You might even be consulted this week by somebody that just really needs to hear. That really just needs to hear what you have to say. So never underestimate how much of an impact you can have on other people. Okay, another king, the King of Pentacles. You're getting paid this week. No, the King of Pentacles is a person. So that's really interesting. I wonder who you're dealing with. Oh, wow. Okay. Ace of Pentacles underneath. You are getting paid this week. Yay. That's funny. All right. So we got 2 kings. The King of Swords and the King of Pentacles. And we also have the World or the Universe card, which is a Saturn card. Yeah. Right? if you're not getting paid directly, then you're definitely making a deal with somebody that can help you get paid or help you secure some kind of form of income. So yay, that's definitely good news. Congratulations. But more to the point, I kind of feel like one of these is you, and one of these is somebody that maybe a new friend that you've made, or maybe somebody that you're working with, especially with all of the career and work kind of things going on in your chart right now. Or perhaps this is representing Saturn. This could be Saturn, or whoever Saturn is to you, right? Like I was saying in the astrology portion, Saturn turning direct in your fourth house, for some of you, can literally represent somebody that's like kind of lightening themselves up a little bit, and they're a little less grumpy, maybe a little bit more like, hey, I'm making money too, so this is a good thing, right? Finances, getting paid, woo. For some of you, that is definitely true. For others of you, it's more just like, all I hear is money. That'd be nice. I wish that for you, Sagittarius. I do hope that that's actually what this is about. But anyway, so there's two different kings. One of these is you. One of these is somebody that you're dealing with. Either that is Saturn at home, and it might not be at home. The fourth house is sometimes just parents. It can be your mom. It can be your dad. And usually Saturn is somebody older. Usually. One of you, you're more than likely the swords here. One of you is focused on communicating, talking it out, debating even. Be very careful this week, Sag, especially if you're a Sag rising, not to bulldoze anybody else with some of your opinions. That is one of the potential dangers of this this Jupiter opposing the Sun, Mars, and Mercury, is just going into a conversation already thinking or knowing that you're right, and then kind of dominating everything. So just be cautious of that. Anyway, with this other figure, both of you are equally powerful in your own right. Both of you are equally important in your own right. One of you is more focused on the cerebral, while the other is more focused on the physical. This can be a really helpful combination, right? It can kind of help check and balance each other. So as long as you are not in conflict with this other person, this is a great combo. And I love actually that the World card is coming out. You're reaching mastery with something, or reaching mastery or being challenged. And I like the symbolism of this card coming out because, like I said, this is symbolic of Saturn. Saturn turns direct this week in your fourth house. That's a good thing. Typically this card is talking about some kind of major ending and a major beginning. It's a portal, after all. It is a portal. So there is an important phase coming to an end, probably at home, probably with your parents, maybe even with, let's say for some of you, you're not in contact with your parents and that part doesn't land. Well, then we're talking about an internal process, maybe even with, maybe you are maybe you discovered some really interesting things about your ancestry, and it's like it's helping you come to a new kind of understanding. And you're coming into a new phase of life where you're being challenged. You are moving on from some old identity that you've held on to for way too long. This challenge is a good thing. This challenge is going to help kind of level you up, so to speak. But still in a grounded way. It is a Saturn card after all. So accept the challenge. Rise to the challenge. Don't be afraid of if something seems really hard this week, moving into next week, if something seems extremely more like way more difficult than it should be, lean into it. I guarantee you, as Saturn stations and turns direct and kind of starts to move forward again, things will ease up. And I kind of feel like this card coming out, especially with this underneath the deck, things will begin to ease and move forward. Okay. The the differences of opinion and the different ways that you've approached the situation with the other people in your environment will start to make sense. You'll start to see how things can actually be complementary to each other, and how what might have felt like conflict and butting heads before is suddenly starting to make sense, and things kind of begin to flow a little bit more easily. So that's really nice, Sagittarius. Oh, what's up, Polymath? Ooh, driving in a snowstorm. Drive safe, my friend. That's cool that you're listening while you're driving. Let's what's up? Okay. Where are we at? Da da da. Ba ba ba. Scorpio. I might need to get more water in a minute. Just bring a pitcher. Bring a whole ass pitcher next time. Okay, so Katsu. Oh wow. Okay, thank you for that comment. Hopefully finished clearing out a wound from a past love from over 20 years ago. Wow, that would have been very impactful for it to still affect you 20 years later. Found I had a paper of theirs still, so I burned it and used Eclipse water on the ashes. Sick. Wow, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful, especially as a Scorpio rising. I just got chills. I just got chills everywhere. Thank you for sharing. That's really beautiful. Okay. All right, so Scorpio rising. So for you guys, yes, the first seventh saga continues. So while that full moon / lunar eclipse was kind of like a closing of a closing out, a culmination point, a finishing of the story of this intense saga of the me versus you kind of houses, or the me and you houses. We still have a little bit more to go here. So this week we have the sun opposing Jupiter in this house, right? And we're building up for all these planets to oppose Uranus as well. But first this week, sun opposite Jupiter. So I really like this. I like that this is beautiful. I'm going to keep that on the screen for a moment if you don't mind. That's really beautiful. Whenever we see Uranus involved, whether it's with an eclipse or any kind of other aspects going on, it's really, really helpful for breaking free from something, whatever that may be, right? It could be, and I mean, in this context, it could be an old relationship or an old relationship pattern, right? It could be any kind of other bond and contract that we had previously cemented or consummated with somebody else. It can be a karmic bond, whatever, especially with Mars involved as well, because Mars is cutting, right? So this Sun-Jupiter opposition, I really kind of feel like that's going to help you shed some light on these past 2 years, basically. Shed some light and come to some greater wisdom and some greater understanding about maybe what some of those patterns were from your past that you kept repeating. Or, it can just be like a really beautiful release point even. Jupiter can be associated with healing, right? Jupiter can be associated with seeing the bigger picture of things. So I feel like this first aspect that we spoke of is going to be overall helpful for you in that regard. Okay, so that's really cool. Now, now the story about the plumbing stuff is fascinating, okay? Because the fourth house for you guys, the fourth house is ruled by Saturn, right? It's Aquarius. So yes, modern astrology will say Uranus. However, I am learning Hellenistic astrology, and it is still Saturn. Anyway, Saturn turning direct. All right. So first of all, okay, back on the bus. Saturn retrograde. While Saturn is retrograde, it means that the two houses ruled by Saturn, Capricorn and Aquarius, tend to experience more difficulties, right? So with the fourth house in particular, we're talking about our property, right? And now with Saturn turning direct, these topics ease up a bit. All right. So if you, Katsu's example was that, and it's so funny because I dropped an example for a different sign, but still the theme held. Where plumbing is an issue, right? So something with the plumbing was rattling around and banging around and being really annoying or whatever. And maybe even causing damage. I don't know, especially for such an old house, 1914. Dang, time to update stuff for sure. So Saturn turning direct, these topics, these two houses kind of ease up a bit, right? You find the right solutions. And I think it's kind of beautiful. Saturn in the fifth house. The solution is likely going to be a little bit creative in nature, or you might need to use some kind of creative problem solving in order to solve the things that were coming up previously. There is one thing about this week that I would urge a little bit of caution about, and that's the Venus Neptune opposition on the same day that Saturn turns direct on what did I say, Saturday? I almost said Thursday. Nope. Saturday. When it comes to the connections that you have, your wider social network, but specifically the people that you are involved with that help you achieve your goals. Okay, so it's not just all your acquaintances. It's like very specific people that help you achieve something. I don't actually, instead of a caution, actually, I kind of feel like take a little bit of time to lean into the playful nature of Venus and the artistic nature of the fifth house, right? And maybe take some time to play instead, especially with Saturn turning direct. It's like, this is a heavy theme, right? It's a heavy planet. It's a heavy theme. It's in kind of a heavy sign, but take some time to play instead of focusing entirely on the super serious nature of things. It's still going to be there when you're done. Here's the thing, right? It's still going to be there when you're done. The piping's still going to be there. The problem's still going to be there. The Saturnian nature of reality is still going to be there. But I feel like if you take a little bit of time to kind of enjoy yourself a little bit, lean into some really nice music with friends, perhaps that would be a better way to use this energy and kind of flow with things in a more harmonious way. That's good to hear, girl. Good to hear. Oh, that's actually really cool. Isn't Vesta, so Vesta's, I guess, what is she classified as, a minor planet or an asteroid? Minor planet? I'm not sure. Anyway, symbolizing hearth and home, dedication, things that we dedicate ourselves to. That's a really interesting archetype. Anyway, okay. To the cards. Asteroid, yeah. Thank you. For some reason, my brain wants to make her into a planet, but yeah. Okay, so anyway, sounds like to me, Scorpio, that things will probably still be a little bit intense while, planets are moving through Scorpio, but take advantage of the light moments when you can, and take some opportunities to appreciate the beauty that's around you, as things are temporary. Both good things and bad things are temporary, right? This too shall pass. I feel it'll be really important for you to just know this. We do have the Mars-Sun conjunction happening later this month in the sign of Scorpio. So every 2 years, sometimes 2 years and a month, so it's not exact, we have the Mars Cazimi. So Mars meets up with the Sun and starts a new Martian cycle. 2 years ago, it happened in Libra. 2 years before that, in Virgo. This year, it's happening in Scorpio. So, of course, that'll be your first house if you're a Scorpio rising. So this is important to note just to kind of prepare yourself for this. I know I mentioned it last Monday, but I just want to say it again as I was shuffling and the Tower card was like in my face. So I'm like, okay, Mars, I hear you. If it still kind of feels like you're wrapping things up and clearing things out and in a deconstructive process, it's okay. Roll with that energy and allow things to continue to deconstruct if they need to, because you're going through, as a Scorpio rising anyway, you're going through a your own personal kind of rebirth story. So every 2 years, this is a thing that repeats periodically with Mars and the Sun, right? Every planet has its turn to go into the beams of the Sun, which symbolizes the underworld. Okay, so lucky you, the Cazimi will be in Scorpio this year. It's the first time that it's happened in Scorpio since 1991. So kind of significant. It's been 32 years. So first card that came out is actually the Ace of Swords. So it just kind of came out and kind of flew halfway across the room. Didn't this happen last week? I was like, Scorpio has a secret. I seem to remember something similar happening. Weird. Anyway, Ace of Swords. There is an important insight that you have. You know a truth. It's a special insight that you receive. You understand something for the first time, perhaps. You gain some kind of insight that's extremely valuable. It's like receiving a sudden download almost. Next two cards out, we've got the Eight of Pentacles, which is all about diligent, meticulous work. Doing things over and over and over again in order to perfect a process. This actually represents the first decan of Virgo, and is represented by the Sun in Virgo, as very much so paying attention to the process and getting lost into the process itself for the sake of doing it, for the sake of perfecting it. Practicing something to perfection, okay, or doing it perfectly every single time, even when it doesn't matter, makes it so that when it does matter, you already have it down and it's muscle memory at that point. Okay, so keep putting in the work, whatever the work is. And then we also got the Emperor. Again, Mars. This represents Aries, but still, Aries is ruled by Mars. So there's a strong Martian theme with you right now, Scorpio, which makes sense. That is your ruling planet after all. There's something here about knowing the truth, not getting too egotistical about it, and just really continuing to dive headfirst into your work regardless, because there's something here about, and this is a kind of a kind of a fucked up statement, but it's like doing the work will set you free. Please don't take that the wrong way. There's something here about just minding your own business. That's kind of the feeling that I get with this. Minding your own business. We had a saying in the trades. Head down, ass up, work, work, work. That's all that really matters. That's what this feels like. Okay. Not everybody deserves all of what you have to give. Not everybody will understand the messages that you have to give them. Not everybody will be able to actually even comprehend what you're saying, let alone be able to have an intelligent conversation with you. I want you to be very selective this week about who you share everything with. And it's not even coming from a place of elitism or anything like that. It's more like just being discerning, right? Like there's actually this Bible phrase that keeps coming to mind, something about not casting pearls before swine. It's it's not meant to be like you're being an asshole. It's actually just about you're not going to give out really valuable information that has a lot of worth and, again, value to just anybody that's not going to be able to appreciate it or be able to pay it the respect that it deserves. And there's something here about keeping some of that, sharing some of it with the right people, keeping the rest of it, and just continuing to show the proof in the pudding. You know what I mean? Just continuing to do the work and demonstrating it rather than telling people about it. There's something about that that's going to really show people how to be their own sovereign. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. I just also want to note, like, this is a very old man in this image, and I've never picked that up before because usually that's interesting to me because Aries is considered to be like this youthful energy, right? It's the beginning of spring. It's like this childlike energy where the sun is being reborn, blah, blah, blah. But in this particular deck, the Emperor is old as fuck. Look at him. Look at that beard. That's Santa Claus. Why is that important? It's important because Mars is Mars is invisible right now. We can't see Mars. Mars is about to go through his own underworld cycle. That's symbolic of you going through an underworld cycle. It's symbolic of you shedding an old skin and being reborn again. Okay. Eventually Mars will make it out from behind the sun and will rise as a morning star and we'll see Mars again on the horizon. But for now, there's more of an internal process that's happening, right? And a clearing process that's happening. And you could share little bits, right? Share little bits with some people, but the majority of it is going to just be for you alone. Matthew 7:6. Nice. Thank you. Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces. Turn and tear you to pieces. Exactly. So. Girl, do you got your chart open? Have you memorized all of this? That's really cool. So your part of fortune is in Scorpio as well. Okay. So your sun and moon must be fairly close together then. Like you were born right before or right after a new moon? I love you, J-Lo. We're just on the same wavelength. Born on a new moon. Yep. Yeah, there you go. Word. Okay. That's such a powerful verse. So Matthew, what's it? Chapter 7, verse 6. Yeah, I don't know. I went to Sunday school. I can't help it. Sometimes those phrases just pop to mind and they just fit really well, so they work. Anyway, yeah, have fun, Scorpio. It'll be an interesting week. Yeah, that sums it up perfectly, and we're gonna leave it at that. Okay. Venus and Leo. Oh yeah, you did. I would love to hear the story of why that's used to be. You don't need to share it now if you don't want, but I love those stories. Okay. Na, 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 na. Libra. Okay, I'm really excited for you. Why? Not even about this week. It's not about this week. It's next week that I'm excited for. When Venus moves into your first house, it's gonna be sick. For now, though, there's a couple of interesting transits to contend with first. Pardon me. Okay, so if you are a Libra rising, that means Venus is your chart ruler. Okay, so any transits to your natal Venus or any transits with transiting Venus that Venus goes through, that's representative of you, okay, and your body. But first, before we get there, Jupiter and the Sun are having their peak of their cycle this week, Thursday. Considering this is involving your second and eighth house, I think the majority of this energy is playing out either in your like finances and resources, and maybe if you have a partner or you have any kind of debts or anything like that, it's playing out there. You know, it could be, maybe the opposition is really getting you to. I mean, the eclipses that have been happening here have already gotten you to be taking a really hard look at your finances and shared goals with other people. This Jupiter-Sun opposition is kind of like, I kind of feel like it's inserting some optimism into that axis for you. It's like, okay, what has felt like dire straits, it's not that the Jupiter-Sun opposition is going to suddenly magically reverse everything that has been difficult, right? That's not how it works. But it's like there's an opportunity or there's some kind of temporary or partial relief that comes with this. It's like something that you've started quite a while ago, right? The cycle began the last time Sun and Jupiter conjuncted, right? The last time there was a conjunction. I don't think conjuncted is a word, by the way. Sorry about that. The last time they conjuncted. So I say it again. The cycle began the last time Sun and Jupiter came together. There we go. Now it's coming to a head, right? So there's something that you began that's kind of culminating, and Jupiter's kind of helping give a bit of a boost. Okay. It's giving a bit of a boost to this cycle. Specifically, quite likely has to do with either your partner's finances if you're married or living with a significant other, or there's something to do with maybe you finally filed all your taxes and you're getting a bunch of money back, or like something like that. I know at least one person that is actually very true for. Or let's say it's not that, but you owe a bunch of money and you finally work out some kind of deal because of this opposition's influence, where maybe there's some relief with the payments or the interest rate was lowered or something like that goes down, where there's some assistance here. Okay. Now, what I would caution about, actually, since this is the eighth house after all, and Mars is involved after all, is not to get too crazy with the spending, right? Like you might be given a boon or some kind of inheritance or something like that comes through that's really helpful. Don't immediately spend it all, okay? Be really cautious about that. A temporary relief doesn't mean that it's relief for a long period of time, right? So be cautious with that. Don't go too crazy with whatever nice thing that happens. Typical of a Capricorn rising, I'm going to preach. Speaking of preaching, I'm going to preach caution and keeping a level head, okay? All right. So later on in the week, Saturday, Venus will oppose Neptune on the same day that Saturn turns direct. Okay, so the Venus opposing Neptune is interesting, all right? Especially for you guys. This is a really interesting one because this is happening on kind of a difficult axis. The 6/12 axis is not an easy one to deal with. These are not easy houses, okay? There's no way to really super sugarcoat these houses to make them really nice. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think considering the 12th house has a lot to do with our mental state, spirituality, but more to the point, places of isolation and our psyche and things that we do that hold us back and sabotage ourselves. And I mean, something like this could definitely be speaking to like dipping into an addiction or escapism. You know, be really careful about that you don't allow yourself to get pulled back into toxic habits. Just be really, really careful about that. So if you find yourself trying to escape with something, maybe take a couple minutes to sit it out, right? Take 15 minutes before actually engaging in the activity, whatever it is, to call a friend, right? Call somebody outside of yourself that can help ground you, that can help anchor you back down and give you the thing that you're missing that you need, okay? So, no relapsing. Don't do it. Saturn turning direct on the same day, I feel is really helpful, okay? Saturn turning direct is kind of like an anchor. All right, it's bringing us back down to reality. It's helping us to, especially for Libra rising, if you've had any kind of like chronic ailments that you've been experiencing, Saturn turning direct is like a bit of relief almost. It's finding the solutions to a really difficult problem that's been like maybe even feeling, the word hex comes to mind. Not saying that you're hexed or anything like that, please don't take it like that, but something that has been plaguing you, so to speak. Saturn turning direct is like finding the solution for that, okay? Investing is key. I love interviews. I would love to do some more interviews focused on transits. That would be really fun. I'm definitely going to come back to you, Katsu, in just a second. Let me star that. Doot. Okay. All right. Hey, I like that. Only addiction was cigarettes. That's great. Be mindful, especially with Venus going through a Mercury sign, that things like social media addiction is definitely a thing. Or we can be addicted to consuming fear porn, right? Or there's more heady addictions that are not necessarily based on substances that are just as detrimental to our health. So that's fucking awesome. I'm so proud of you for quitting cigarettes. That's a really difficult one to let go of. So good for you, JLo. Badass. I don't know if you guys know this, but JLo is a badass. Okay. Was there anything else I wanted to say? I don't think so. Okay, so Libra, what do we got for cards for you? Oh yeah. Later this month, actually next week, Venus will be moving into your first house. So rejoice. This is going to be really nice. Venus moving into Libra. We'll definitely be talking about that and how awesome that will be for you guys later. And I really feel like the Venus Neptune opposition for most of you guys is going to be just like maybe revisiting something that used to plague you or cause issues for you before, and realizing that it's so much easier to release that now. Like, wow, this actually doesn't have a hold on me anymore, and then letting go of it. Especially with Saturn turning direct, it's like, no, we did actually do the work there. We don't need this anymore. And it's like going back to something that used to have a really, really powerful hold on you, and then just realizing that it doesn't do it for you anymore, and you can walk away from it no problem. That is a very empowering position to be in. Okay. It's on the bottom of the deck again. Yeah, okay, so Libra, what do we got for you? The Knight of Swords, the Eight of Swords. Okay, so Knight of Swords, Eight of Swords. It's cool. These two came out at the same time with the Knight on top of the 8 like this. 11 in the chat again. What's up, people? Make sure you lovingly tap that like button. Okay, so wow, okay, that's really cool. So I was just saying, like, hey, this opposition doesn't even need to mean that you're dipping back into relapse territory with whatever it is, right? Like I said, it can be social media, doesn't have to be substance. It can even be like relationship addiction. Talk to Libra about relationship addiction. That's a thing. But what I'm seeing with these cards, okay, I'm going to pull a third one, but something that used to tie you up, so to speak, something that you used to get way too cerebral about, way too lost in your head about, something that made you feel powerless, you're able to launch yourself away from and cut yourself away from, right? If you are finding yourself this week really feeling like you need to resort back to some unhealthy habit, take the time to call somebody. It can be anybody. You don't even have to tell them what's going on. Call your mama. Or not. It doesn't have to be mom. It could be anybody. Call somebody that really cares deeply about you, that has a level, logical way of looking at things, that can help ground you, that can help break you from the pattern. Sometimes all it takes is a hug, you know? Like, literally, speaking from experience, sometimes all it takes is a hug and a phone call for you to stop going down one particular path and redirect. Because what I see you doing, Libra, this week is almost falling back into a pattern of self-sabotage, stopping yourself from doing that, right? Releasing yourself from that pattern, and then reestablishing a calm awareness, right? Reestablishing the observer, right? So, and at the bottom of the deck, it's all swords for you. It's all swords. The bottom of the deck is the 10 of swords. Literally, you're putting some pattern of yours to rest with a finality. And I freaking love that for you. Use the power of Saturn, okay? Saturn is the power to say no. Saturn is the power of boundaries, all right? In the 6th house, this is important. The ability to say no to people. By the way, Saturn is exalted in your sign. Very important planet for Libra. Saturn is the power to go within. Saturn is the power of saying no, of putting a stop to something, of resting. Use that power. It is impactful. It's impactful. And this week, I feel like you're going to help shatter some old paradigms of yours, some old patterns and some old ways of self-sabotage. I'm sure I said that like a billion times already, but it's important and I need to get the point across. Anyway, Libra, really impactful week. I'm really excited for when Venus moves into your first house next week. Definitely going to be talking about that. But in the meantime, it's almost like there is something that needs to be cleared away first before Venus moves into Libra, where there's something that's been plaguing you in the back of your mind, and doing like a physical cleanse in the real world can really help you with clearing out the mind. And like I said, if you have to reach out and make a phone call, make a phone call. You don't have to tell them what's going on, just connect. Force yourself to step outside and connect with somebody else. That can really help to halt the progression of a lapse or a relapse. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Yeah, go give her a hug. Go give her a hug. I'll tell you right now, most addiction, if not all, is born partially from trauma and isolation. All right, so isolation will exacerbate, I can't fucking speak today. Exasperate, make worse any kind of budding addiction 10 times, right? So the number one thing that people need when they're in a cycle or when they're descending into a cycle, maybe they haven't developed that addiction yet, but they need connection with other humans. They need, Libra knows this. Libra knows this very well. We need connections with other human beings. That was one of the most criminal things about the lockdowns, was anybody that was struggling with addiction, they made it worse. So anyway, give a Libra a hug. I'm going to call my sister after this. Let's see how she's doing. All right. Oh, go give her a hug. Go give her a hug. Okay, actually, before I go to Virgo, Katsu, thank you for sharing with me. So, Katsu, I asked Katsu what got her to leave the church. I'm assuming you're female. What got her to leave the church? So she said, I left church in 2012, but was raised in it. Me too. Was a teacher at 13 years old back in 95. Wow. Okay. So like youth leader kind of thing. That's cool. And eventually got tired of being condemned for helping with the children and them asking for more help. Boo. Yeah. All right, Virgo. I need to stand up and stretch a little bit. So before I actually pull up Virgo's chart, I just need to like stand up for like half a second. Stretch break. So guys, if you are enjoying today's stream, make sure you leave a like. When the stream is done, leave a comment. I really appreciate those. I love reading them. And also, until the end of Scorpio season, so until Sun moves into Sagittarius, I have a 15% off any reading on my website. You just use the code Scorpio15. It's in the description box down below. And that will be for, you can apply it to literally anything. So if you've never had a natal chart reading with me before, you can use it. If you have done that and you want to come back for a return journey, you can apply it to the already discounted amount that you guys have. If you want to do a private tarot reading, you can use it for that. If your birthday's coming up, you can use it for that. Anything you'd like. Ooh, gotta stretch out the legs. I wonder if J-Lo, I wonder if she's dealing with a little bit of what's it called, postpartum depression. I would say definitely reach out and give her a hug. Maybe I need a hug. That's why I'm saying it so much. Okay, I need more water. I'll be right back. Okay. She's saying no. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Virgo. Oh, well that's good. So you're right there if she needs you. So that's helpful. Okay, Virgo. Do. Adjust my microphone a little bit. Sorry. Just realized that I've been slouching and it's really uncomfortable. Okay. Let's get to this, Virgo. Whew. So for you guys, first thing happening this week on Thursday, we have the Jupiter-Sun opposition. All right, so this is the kind of a culmination, full moon type of energy for Jupiter. This is the halfway point for Jupiter's retrograde. Jupiter will be the brightest in its retrograde cycle while it's at opposition with the Sun. So it's kind of cool. As soon as the Sun starts going down, you can see Jupiter rising in the east. I love it when that happens. And boy, has he been bright. Anyway, archetypally speaking, this kind of energy playing out in your 3rd and 9th house, I mean, you're very familiar with these houses. This is where the eclipses have been over the last couple of years. And when this particular cycle started with Jupiter, it was midway through the eclipses going through here. So you're very familiar with these houses, all right? The 3rd and 9th house. I really don't feel like I need to go over what these themes should be about, except I will say when it comes to the 3rd and 9th in particular, this axis has a lot to do with, especially Jupiter in the 9th, has a lot to do with our beliefs. It has a lot to do with our spirituality, the 9th in particular. Spirituality, our beliefs, religion in general. It can also have to do with like publications and things that we put out and teach, or our relationship with teachers. Having this kind of an opposition on this axis, sorry, excuse me, didn't mean to do that into the mic. One thing I would caution about is talking back to a teacher. I encourage you to listen. All right. So there's likely going to be extremely valuable words of wisdom coming from some kind of teacher or somebody that you hold in a very high standing. That would be Jupiter in the 9th. They might have some kind of really important message for you, or just something that's going to assist you and maybe stop you from doing something dumb. Although what I'm beginning to learn is that some of the best teachers, they don't tell you how to do something, or how they don't really necessarily even show you the best way to do something. They kind of let you figure it out for yourself. They don't tell you everything. They let you fill in the gaps, because that leads to the best kind of learning. Sometimes this can be really frustrating, especially if you are more mercurial. You want to know all the details, right? Virgo rising. You want to know all the details. You want to be told so that you can continue to dissect it. Jupiter is a little bit more mysterious than that. Jupiter's like, I'll give you some details and the higher view of thing, the flavor of the law, so to speak. You can figure out the specific lettering on your own. That could be a bit frustrating for sure. So Um, depending on like how that actually plays out for you on a personal level, keep her cool. Um, try not to talk back to any kind of teacher that's trying to give you words of wisdom. This might be a challenging one for you, especially with your chart ruler involved on the other end of the opposition. It might be a bit challenging. I'm not going to lie. Or if you're able to allow cooler heads to prevail, despite having Mars in your third house, there could be some really fascinating and a totally different view imparted upon you that can really change your own worldview or help you level up your own belief structures even. So I don't know, try to keep an open mind. Try to keep an open mind and allow yourself to sit back and listen. Um, yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. At the same time as that's happening, we are kind of building up here energetically for all three of these planets to oppose Uranus. I mean, the day that I have it right now, technically Mercury is already opposite Uranus, but that won't be until Saturday. So when we have Uranus involved, there's this archetype of freedom. The process of individuation comes to the forefront. Breaking free from things that bind us comes to the forefront. So Mars in particular, as Mars goes to oppose Uranus, there is an explosive kind of energy. And this is why I'm saying to try and keep your cool wherever possible. The Mars-Uranus opposition that'll be next week, potentially fairly explosive. I mean, it's in houses that won't necessarily be directly impacting you, but especially if you are able to kind of keep your cool this week, especially when dealing with siblings, for example. It'll help a lot next week when things really heat up and those aspects perfect. The other really big thing happening this week is we have Venus opposing Neptune. This is happening in your 1st and 7th house on the same day that Saturn turns direct in your 7th house. So, Virgo rising, if you have been struggling with anything to do with partnerships where maybe the commitments haven't been so solid, or maybe they haven't kept up with their end of the commitments that they made, or especially since Cancer season, right? Especially since around the summer solstice, if they've kind of like fucked off for the summer, you might literally see them coming back, right? That could be one signification of this. Or they might be ready to actually make a commitment where before they were a little bit wishy-washy, or they had changed their mind on an agreement. But be cautious that you're not deluding yourself. Okay, so it's kind of harsh, I know, but if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. I would honestly don't jump for anything this weekend, right? If promises are being made and things are being said, just give it until the end of the weekend. Give it until like Wednesday. Wait until Venus has moved into Libra before you say yes to anything, right? Just because there's a tendency for us to ignore things that are really blatant and right in our faces sometimes when we have this kind of an aspect, especially affecting a really personal house like the 1st and the 7th. So give it a little bit of time, give it a little bit of space. Don't say yes to anything right off the bat, but look for things in relationships to kind of start to solidify. And really what I would encourage you to do is be really clear about what your boundaries and what your expectations are going forward, right? Okay. What's up, Gordy? Hey, Gordy. Good to see you, buddy. Bull gang in the house. Oh, so you were born right by a new moon and she was born on like a full moon? That's really cool. I love looking at different patterns in family charts. It's fun. It's a really fun exploration. Oops. That did not work. Gordy is the man. Okay. That's really cool. Okay, Virgo, what do we got for you guys? I mean, Saturn turning direct in the 7th house can be really, really helpful for defining the boundaries of a relationship and for creating a really strong and lasting bond. When you're looking at synastry, okay, which is looking at 2 or more charts together, and you're looking at specifically in the context of, like, say, a romantic relationship or whatever, you want to see a Saturn contact. You need to see a Saturn contact because Saturn is like the glue. Saturn is long-term commitment, right? So if it's just like all Mars and Venus, that's like, yay, there's playful, sexy time energy, but you need to see something that tells you it's going to last, which is where Saturn comes in. So Saturn going through your 7th house, for some people, that ends up bringing marriage. For some people, it ends up bringing marriage. For some people, it ends up bringing an end to a contract, an end to an agreement, because it wasn't actually based on a solid ground to begin with. So the first card that came out was actually the 3 of Swords. So speaking of contracts coming to an end, now this card is often associated with heartbreak, unfortunately. I think that that's just a very surface meaning of the card. It's really talking about the commitments that we make to other people, and can we live up to those commitments, or should we not have made them in the first place? Or do we need to rework some of those commitments, some of those contracts, so that they do actually work for us? When the 3 of this card, by the way, is associated with the middle decan of Libra, where Saturn is exalted, interestingly enough. So Venus and Saturn, speaking of motherfucking Saturn. So I want you guys to ask yourself this week, Virgo, is this a contract that is based on something solid? Or is this a contract or an agreement, whatever, that is based on hopes and wishes and dreams and unicorn farts? And is it actually going to be helpful and advantageous for both of us going forward? Or is there something that needs to be reworked in the contract? Does it actually work for both of us or only one of us? You know, that kind of thing. The other 2 cards that came out actually underneath the deck first, before I go to the other 2, we have the Ace and Ace, the Ace of Pentacles. So for whatever reason, contract is just a really solid, good word for this reading for you guys. We have the 4 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles as well. Okay. So Virgo, I want you to ask yourself, when it comes to longevity and when it comes to legacy, when it comes to the long-term investments that you're willing to make at this time, what do you want to see for yourself 10 years down the road? What do you want to see for yourself 4 years down the road? Are you taking steps right now that help you get there, that are in alignment with those goals? Or are the steps you're taking right now taking you away from those goals? What's interesting about your reading right now is we have one card that's talking about the potential of a contract kind of dissolving, potentially, or a recommitment to that contract. And at the same time, underneath the deck, the promise of some kind of new boon or new opportunity coming in. I think that you just need to be extremely realistic with yourself and with whoever else is involved here about, again, like I said in the astro section, what are the expectations moving forward, and are you guys each contributing equally to the stability that you want, or not, right? And it kind of feels like what you need right now is stability, right? What you need right now is to almost like a consolidation of power and stability, not in a negative sense of like, I have all the power or whatever, but more just like your own personal sense of power, right? You know what's wild? I literally have never noticed this about this card before. He has two different colored shoes. One is red, one is brown. Why have I never noticed that before? What the fuck? That's crazy. Wow, okay, that's an interesting symbolism. I don't know what it means at the moment. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But anyway. Okay, that's what that means. It's like one foot is going in a direction that's helpful and the other one is going in a direction that's not so helpful. And it's almost like you need to bring those 2 feet, so to speak, together so they're going in the same direction. The one red shoe, one brown shoe. Check that out. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Gordy's going to drop some symbolism on me. That would be helpful. Yeah, so anyway, it's like the directions that you two are going are not necessarily in alignment right now. I would say have some really good conversations this week about what your individual expectations are and whether you can bring those things into alignment or not. And if not, then that's okay, right? Because what you need to be focusing on right now is the legacy that you want, the long-term game that you're looking for, right? Saturn in the 7th house is about looking at the long-term game. The cumulative the cumulative interest adding up together rather than quick little wins here and there, right? So anyway, Virgo, that's what I got for you. I feel like there's a story to this. Aha! I'm really curious. Is it really a Tom Hanks movie? Oh, snap. Okay. Well, now I gotta go look it up. The Man with One Red Shoe. Is that the title of the movie? Because I need to know now. I need to know. All right, so Leo. Oh, Leo. How was that last eclipse? Please tell me. I need to know. Fortunately / unfortunately, the saga of these two houses is not over yet. But wait, there's more. So yes, eclipse was definitely kind of like wrapping up a major storyline for you in this axis of the 10th and 4th, the private versus public life. But there's still a story playing out here. This play between private and public, the ancient and the anchor and the hidden and the reaches that we go for, the public, the visible. Oh, buddy. Oh, Gordy. So anyway, there's still a story playing out here. Okay. So first, Thursday, we have the Sun Jupiter opposition. So like I've been saying for everybody, and okay, so first of all, hold up before I talk about that. For Leo rising specifically, Sun represents you. It's your body. It's your vitality. Okay. You are the main character. Okay. That's the Sun. That's you. So any major transits happening to your natal sun or to the transit sun are directly impactful for you and your body, okay? So anyway, Sun in the 4th house. So chart ruler in the 4th house. You have been focusing a little bit more on your anchor, on your ancestry, on what keeps you grounded, on maybe just like clearing out and purging things in your private life that, need to go. Meanwhile, we're getting ready for this opposition with Jupiter where there's this cycle that you began not terribly long ago. This Sun Jupiter cycle specifically in the 10th house. So whether it's some kind of career moves that you've been making, or maybe you've been talking about different things publicly and there was like maybe a project you started, or whatever the case may be, there's something that you started that was very public, okay? And it's kind of like coming to a head now. You can consider this energy to be similar to like a full moon for Jupiter. So it's like a culmination, okay? Sun-Jupiter combo is usually quite positive, right? It's usually like you're shining as your best self. All right. It's like the Sun and Jupiter tend to encourage each other and amp each other up a little bit, especially with Mars here as well. It's like there's it's almost like this daredevil energy that kind of comes in there and encourages the other to be their best self. And I mean, this is usually a fairly positive thing. Usually. Sometimes it can kind of like, sometimes it can be a little bit too much, right? Where all of a sudden your opinion is the only one that matters and everybody else I can't even think of something to say right now. I'm sorry, but everybody else just sucks, right? And yours is the only one that matters. That is one kind of like negative way that this can play out. So just be cautious of that, right? Let's say you're a Leo rising and, I don't know, you run into some people at work or whatever, and you're asked for your opinion, and it kind of sparks this like debate or whatever, especially with Mercury involved. It sparks this kind of debate or whatever. Try not to go into that situation with this attitude of, no, I'm definitely in the right here, because you might be missing some really crucial details. There might actually be something that you've overlooked. And you might actually regret those words later if you go a little bit too overboard with it. Okay. So just be cautious of that. Just be mindful, right? Stay grounded. All right. Yeah. Other big things, other big transits that are happening this week is on Saturday, we have two things happening back to back, actually simultaneously. Venus is opposing Neptune in your second, 8th house, and Saturn at the same time is turning direct in your 8th house. So when it comes to the commitments that you have to other people and the shared goals that you have, or the shared finances and resources that you have with other people, I actually feel like, especially your significant other, since Saturn rules your 7th house, I actually feel like this is a very helpful transit, Saturn turning direct for you. Okay. It's like if you have been dealing with any kind of chronic health stuff, or your partner's been dealing with any kind of chronic health stuff, or there's just some other shared goal and shared responsibility that you have with another person that has hit some kind of snag, Saturn turning direct is finally finding some solutions to that, right? So let's say you finally have a plan to pay off some debt, right? That's an 8th house theme, is the debt. And just having that plan and having an agreement to go forward with it takes a huge load of stress off, right? It's massive. Just having, just honestly, because when it comes to financial stuff, having it linger in the air and not dealing with it is way more stressful than making the phone call like a goddamn adult and being like, hey, I can't pay. Let's make some kind of plan here because I want to pay. I don't want my credit to keep getting messed with here. And I would like to just deal with this like an adult. Taking the more responsible route, Saturn, is always the better way to go and will always help you feel less stressed about it in the long run. So whether that's you or whether that's your partner that needs to do that, whatever the case may be, just do it. Take the adult route, take the higher road with that kind of stuff. Okay. I do want to caution you about taking out any new debt or making any promises to anybody specifically regarding your own resources. Okay, especially your own resources. Be especially careful especially on Saturday, but leading up to Saturday, that number one, you're actually talking to the correct people. So like, don't answer any phishing emails, please, for the love of God. Make sure if you get some weird phone calls that you call the bank directly instead of answering the phone call if it's weird and it's off or whatever. You know, if some promise is being made to you and it seems way too good to be true, like, oh, just use this transfer credit card and all of your financial woes will be forgiven or whatever. Don't do it. There's a high degree possibility of fraud happening with this kind of stuff happening in your second house, the Venus Neptune opposition. On the other hand, the kind of mystical, magical way of looking at this is maybe instead of falling for an obvious scam, you can use this kind of energy as an opportunity to do a little bit of monetary manifestation. Just be realistic, Saturn. Be very realistic about what you're doing, what you're getting into, and any kind of agreements that you might want to sign to just kind of squash the stress, right? Squash the stress or get the monkey off your back, so to speak. Okay. So anyway, Saturn going direct in the 8th house. I think this is way more positive than not. Just be very careful about that Venus Neptune opposition. Okay. Ooh, you know what? Honestly, hell yeah. Bankruptcy sucks. It really sucks. But if that was the best solution and helped you wipe the slate clean so that you can move forward, especially after a divorce, man, what a freeing thing to do. So yeah, it sucks, but I'm really happy that it's going to help you move forward and not have to continue to pay for, just having been in a relationship with somebody. What's up, Matt? That is a kind of weird. Someone calling your 19-year-old saying they were calling about the accident she had 2 years ago. That is a little bit weird. Yeah, I would, before giving them any personal information, I would do homework about the person or the company that's calling and stuff like that, especially she's a Leo. Yeah, she's a Leo. So yeah, just be a little bit extra cautious about giving away information to strangers and whatnot. Oh, she never had an accident? Oh, well, there you go. There you go. What accident? Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah. And speaking of scammers, I haven't seen any of this happen yet, but I will never message you on Instagram or in the comments asking to give you a reading. You have to come to me, okay? So yeah, don't get fooled by that kind of stuff. An ethical reader, whether it's tarot or astrology or any kind of psychic art, will never be cold calling in the comments section or messaging you directly through Instagram or anything like that. They won't do it. It's an extremely unethical practice, and it's more than likely going to be a scammer. Just saying. Anyway, what do we got for cards, Leo? Also, if somebody tells you that you're cursed and that you need to pay money in order for them to remove the bad spirits, it's a scam. it's a scam and it's highly predatory behavior, so don't fall for it. I was just reading, actually, like the other day, about how they're, like, up until like 2018 in Canada, it was illegal to be a fortune teller. Yeah. But for that exact reason, because people get preyed upon when they're in a vulnerable state, and then told things like, "Oh, you have a dark energy around you. You need my help." And then, get defrauded out of a ton of money because they're in a vulnerable state and they're looking for support or assistance or even just an emotional connection, and that's really fucked up. But also it's like old archaic witchcraft laws where just, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So anyway, old archaic laws. Yeah, so anyway, up until sometime 2018, possibly even 2019, it was actually technically illegal to be a fortune teller for money in Canada. And I think that might be like a state-specific thing down in the States as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, anyway, fun times. Okay, Leo, what do we got for you for cards, Leo? Ooh, the Empress. I like that. Hello, Empress. And the Six of Pentacles. One more card. Whoop. Too many. One more. Okay, so the Empress. I love that. That's Venus saying hi. That's Venus saying hi with the Six of Pentacles. Okay, so this energy of people getting scammed is really it's a big thing. It's really potent. I want you guys to be really careful this week. Okay, so Leo, for you guys, we got the Empress, we got the Six of Pentacles, and we got the King of Pentacles. Dun 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 dun. I like that. Also underneath, the Ace of Cups. I like to see that. That's beautiful. All right. So the Empress. This is Venus saying, "What's up?" Empress coming out, always a good sign. You are attracting things to you. This is beautiful. Leo, usually you shine so damn bright, you don't need to attract things to you. You're able to go out and just get it and achieve it no matter what. It's kind of a beautiful quality for Leo. But interesting, I guess, as a Leo rising with the sun down in Scorpio, that's your 4th house. So it's almost like you have to take a break during this half of the year until the sun comes back out from your 7th house in Aquarius. It's like you're kind of, especially during Scorpio season, you are experiencing way more yin energy, and Venus or the Empress coming out is really just kind of highlighting like, hey, you're actually in a really abundant state right now. And even even what I was saying about being cautious about scammers and people trying to defraud you and stuff like that, I think that you'll be able to see through those kind of schemes. But if something seems too good to be true, and it's like it's not actually an equal exchange, or there's something about it that seems off, don't fall for it, right? If it's like, oh, somebody's handing out free money, it's probably not real. Because let me tell you something, okay? There's no such thing as free lunch in the universe. There's always an exchange. There's always an exchange. There's always something that must be paid, whether it is physical, energetic, or spiritual. There's always something that will balance it out again, okay? And I really feel like you instinctively know this. You already know how things go as far as those kinds of exchanges are concerned. And with Saturn turning direct in your 8th house, this is you taking on a more responsible, mature role as far as your long-term wealth is concerned, right? This is you really kind of like sorting yourself out. And what I was saying earlier about being the responsible one and making the proper phone calls where they're needed in order to get things taken care of. This kind of energy is easing up and helping you to move forward. So embody that Saturn a little bit and make the proper phone calls, or assist your partner in making the proper phone calls. Or sending out the proper emails, right, to ease things up. And yeah, like I said, if it seems too good to be true, it's probably not true. So always do your due diligence. Don't just jump into any kind of scheme just because it seems like it's going to be a really good idea. Make sure that you're not falling for something really silly. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty much it. I guess that's I swear that's gonna end up being like half y'all's message is like, hey, don't fall for the easy, obvious bullshit. You got this. But hey, I guess it needs to be said, right? Sometimes it just needs to be said. Okay. Also, just one more thing for you guys, Leo. You might find people coming to you for advice and for words of wisdom this week, okay? Especially if you have gone through some really difficult stuff and you've shared about it publicly. This is the nature of that 4th, 10th axis, okay? People might be coming to you for words of advice because you give off this air of being grounded, of being in tune with the body and with nature and with natural cycles. And there's something about the air that you have, the air that you carry, or the aura around you that is very grounding for a lot of people. And they might be coming to you to seek out, little nuggets, little nuggets or little coins. Maybe not literally coins, but you can always help just by reminding people to come back to the body, right? We are dealing with the Empress energy and with yin energy this month. So reminding people to come back to the body, to breathe, to anchor down, right? And this is a really good month and a really good reminder for you to do that as well, okay? Anchor down if you're feeling like you're being blown about in the wind, or if things are just extremely difficult, especially with that eclipse cycle in impactful houses. Just remind yourself, maybe this is your reminder to bring it back to the body. And honestly, I would argue that probably 90% of the time when people need words of wisdom, that's actually what they need, is to just be reminded to anchor and ground. And sometimes people need assistance with regulating their nervous system. So being an anchor for people can be kind of like your superpower this month, I feel. Yeah. Okay. Dang. Okay, Cancer. And speaking of being in the body, my shoulders are a little sore. Just give me a sec, guys. Shoulders and back. Oh, Wait, your which sister? The pastor's sister sent you her birth time? No. No, really? All right, Cancer. Let's check in on you guys. How are you doing? So, Cancer rising, especially if you have Cancer rising. Yeah, okay. So, first things first, this week we have the Jupiter Sun opposition in your 5th/11th house axis. This is, of course, the same place where we've been having the eclipses for the last couple of years. Yeehaw. So yeah, lunar eclipse. It was definitely like closing a chapter, but it's almost like this is like the epilogue. Yes, that's the perfect way to describe it. The lunar eclipse was the last chapter, right? But now this Jupiter Sun opposition and the opposition of all of these planets with Uranus before they leave Scorpio is kind of like the epilogue playing out, right? And maybe even there's a post installment of a prequel, but it's like you're realizing things that you didn't know originally, like, oh wow, that's some details that I had no idea about, digging up some truths. Anyway, sorry, I kind of lost the lost the thread there a little bit. But anyway, so Jupiter Sun opposition. This is super helpful if you are let's say you are dating somebody and you're getting really romantic with somebody. The Jupiter Sun opposition can be kind of a fun one, honestly, because Sun and Jupiter kind of amp each other up. They encourage each other. They want to bring out the best in each other, and the opposition is not necessarily a negative aspect. However, there's always one good however with astrology. We have Mars and Mercury here with the Sun, and we have Uranus here with Jupiter. So there is this wild and unpredictable and super spicy energy. So if you're a Cancer rising, all this stuff happening in your 5th house can be super sexy, okay? And it's almost like there's things that you're doing in the 5th house which can be super creative. It can be having to do with children, actually, which I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but it's super creative, super artistic. Doing things like, let's say, going to a salsa dance, learning how to do a salsa, or a tango, like something really sexy like that. Just feeling into that energy, diving into Scorpio, diving into your creative side, your sensual side, and not being afraid to express it can help you make alliances, or solidify alliances with people that can really help and assist you with reaching some of your bigger goals. Have fun with it, right? Now, if you happen to have children, then this kind of an opposition is really interesting. You could actually end up watching your kids go through something where perhaps they're dealing with so a really interesting turning point with their significant other, or you could see them really like get empowered about something and really get excited about something. Like that's another way that you could see this play out, as not necessarily in your life but in your children's life. So that's kind of actually a fun thing playing out, I feel. Now, yeah, we'll leave that at that for now. The other thing that's happening Saturday. So Saturday we have two things happening simultaneously. We have Venus opposing Neptune and Saturn turning direct. Okay, so this is happening in your 9th and 3rd house axis. So this is the axis of like learning, basically. 3rd house is the house of the goddess, actually, originally. The house of the goddess and the house of the god. This is to do with primarily your neighborhood, your local environment, and often your local environment has a huge impact and reflects your mind state, right? The ninth house has a lot to do with teachers and the temple the temple or the university that you study in. It has a lot to do with divination, religion, foreign cultures even. So anyway, as Saturn is turning direct, let's talk about that first. As Saturn is turning direct, if you have had any troubles with contracts or with eighth house themes or even with ninth house themes, let's say something you were learning wasn't quite landing and you were really struggling to grasp some concepts and stuff like that, Saturn turning direct can really help to solidify certain concepts. It can help to, if you were having issues with partners, perhaps, Saturn turning direct, because Saturn rules your seventh house. Saturn turning direct is like whatever they were wishy-washy about before, now they're kind of like solidified with. It's like, okay, now we've got our boundaries sorted, and now we're and it could be something to do with like how your child is learning or what kind of school you're sending your child to or something like that, right? Or even it can be about like the beliefs that you may or may not share together, right? So anyway, Saturn turning direct is actually a fairly positive change that we're going through this month. Now, it's happening on the same day as the Venus-Neptune opposition, which can be a confusing and potentially frustrating transit. It's only about a day. I would say maybe 3 days max is the influence. The day before, the day of, the day after. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe even Thursday. It might bleed into Thursday a little bit. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a frustrating one for sure, right? Neptune, for a lot of the signs, definitely this has brought out themes of being careful around getting scammed. For you on the 3rd, 9th house axis, it's less to do with money and more to do with your mind and your mental state. And even like your religion. So I don't know. I kind of feel like an aspect like this you can really use to your advantage with things like prayer and meditation, and you might even be able to use this kind of an aspect to use some kind of like breathing technique or something like that to tap into alternate states, perhaps. I would caution highly caution against using substances. Okay. Do it in a healthy way if you're going to do it at all, especially with Saturn here. Saturn really wants, especially Saturn turning direct on the same day, Saturn wants you to ground down into the body. Saturn wants you to be realistic about it. Saturn wants you to do it the proper way, the proper quote unquote proper way. All right. So anyway, Cancer, that's kind of what's going on for you guys right now. Love you, Gordy. See ya. Oh, what's up, Nathan? Hey. Oh, okay. It wasn't the pastor's sister, because that would have been wild. I've been like, what, record scratch, you know. Okay, Cancer. So what do we got for cards? Let us see. I'm starting to get antsy. I gotta wrap this up. Cancer, what do we have for you? Oh yeah, another thing. The 3rd house can sometimes be, look, the 3rd, 9th axis for you guys can also be talking about transportation. Oh, hi, buddy. So the 3rd house can be talking about transportation. So with that, that Neptune Venus contact, just be, make sure you get your oil changed. That's all. All right. And I would also say be especially cautious about being dogmatic with anything. Okay, so first card we got the Seven of Wands. All right, so the Seven of Wands, oftentimes this is talking about defending a position. Okay. The image is fairly clear, but and actually there's 7 in the chat right now. That's wild. So 7 of Wands, defending a position. Sometimes this is talking about, you worked really hard to achieve something. You got an amazing victory that maybe was against all the odds. Or, you just studied incredibly hard to arrive at some conclusion, and now you have to defend that position. So are you prepared to defend that position? And also with the sevens is a really important part of the chapter. Okay, so before you can officially level up to the next octave, you have to pass the test of the 7. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, you're going to be tested this week for sure. Right after the 7 of Wands, we have the 3 of Wands, and then the Hangman. So defend your position, but actually, hold on. So with the 3 of Wands coming out in the middle, all right, so the 3 can usually be talking about doing something on your own, having like a solution or a path that you've solidified and you're okay with doing it on your own, because it's more about individuating at that point than anything else. It's not necessarily about teaming up or doing something with a group or anything like that. It's more about, I'm doing this on my own and I'm okay with that. And if you look, these guys are wearing different clothes, but they've got the same hair, which is kind of interesting, I think. It seems to me like it's the same person. So it's like you've defended this position, but it's okay if you don't win that argument or win that that debate, right? Because at the end of the day, for you guys, it's more about where are you taking it anyway. That knowledge that you've gained, that insight that you have, you're taking it and you're going on your own path regardless. And immediately after that, we got the Hangman. So exactly. It's almost like at the beginning of the week, especially with this Jupiter-Sun opposition. Let me bring the chart back up for you guys. With the Jupiter-Sun opposition, yeah, it's happening in kind of fun houses, but this is, the 5th house is the house of your self-expression. That's one way to look at the 5th house. And the 11th house is the crowd. It's the groups or the communities that you belong to in some sense. You might feel like you need to defend yourself. You might feel like you need to maybe even stand up for yourself. It could be as simple as that, as just standing up for yourself and then realizing, oh, I actually don't need anybody's approval. I don't necessarily need anybody to agree with me on this particular thing, this artistic expression, this opinion that you have, whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, it's about your own internal journey anyway. It's about what you're doing with that and the growth that you're achieving personally. Yeah, so that's kind of nice. Beautiful, Cancer. I mean, okay, well, one last insight. Okay, especially with this Saturn turning direct. Okay, so one kind of last insight about this. All right, so Saturn gets a really bad rap with modern astrology, right? It's usually seen as like this big, bad, scary thing. It's about halting things and not getting halting things or obstacles and all these annoying concepts of just not being able to move forward with something, right? Well, Saturn is also considered to be an extremely mystical planet. It's the planet of melancholy, and it's a planet of mystery and opposition. So you might actually be facing some really interesting opposition, but the point of the opposition and the point of the nature of exploring duality really is so that you can go and take those two opposing things, those two opposing opinions, and walk in the middle path. But you have to see both sides. You have to see both extremes before you can walk through the middle. Okay, but that's what essentially what Saturn is trying to teach you. So have fun, Cancer. Okay, Gemini. Okay, Gemini. So for you guys, first thing that's happening this week on Thursday is we have the Jupiter Sun opposition in your 6th and 12th houses. So the lunar eclipse was like closing this final chapter, but you can view this opposition here as kind of like an epilogue. It's almost like the story of this axis isn't quite finished. There's more to clean up. It's like this is the cleanup crew that's coming in after the eclipse shook everything up and fucked with your peace, right? So if you have been dealing with any kind of like serious health issues, or if you even like if there's been stuff coming up where you're realizing, hey, this is a pattern that I have where I've been self-sabotaging and like shooting myself in the foot, so to speak, this opposition is going to help you figure out what that pattern is, and begin to make the appropriate changes to heal it. Okay, so yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, usually this Jupiter Sun opposition is more helpful than not. They tend to bring out the best in each other when they're opposing each other. And really this is kind of like the full moon energy for Jupiter, right? It's the culmination of Jupiter's cycle. It's the exact halfway point of the retrograde. So it's like this energy is coming to, it's not completely done, but it's reaching its peak. And Jupiter tends to be a healing and helpful influence, especially in a house like the 12th house. Okay, so it's like shining a light into your own psyche and realizing, hey, this is a pattern that I've been doing that's been really not helping. It's been really hindering rather than helping. So use the power of Mars to cut it out, right? Next week, we will be moving into a little bit more kind of difficult energy as these planets are opposing Uranus. But that's the topic for next week. For now, just focus on what kind of has been coming up for you. Maybe it's showing itself in your dreams. Wouldn't be surprised at all if your sleep has been disturbed. Maybe it's showing up physically, or maybe it's showing up and reflecting itself through your work. The 6th house is associated with the toil and the daily tasks that we kind of bleed for. It's not a fun house, okay? There's no way to sugarcoat the 6th house. But Mars here is a very helpful energy, okay? This is actually the house that Mars rejoices in. Yes, Mars does have fun in one house. It is the 6th. So this brings in this power of determination, okay? It's the power of bravery, determination, to do what must be done. The soldier doesn't, he might fear battle, but he goes into it anyway. That's Mars. It's the motherfucking god of war, okay? So use that power, use that Martian energy to cut out whatever habits have been sabotaging you, whatever you've been doing to yourself, essentially, and to, maybe fight back against whatever, if you've been struggling with your mental health at all or anything like that. That's what this opposition is going to help you achieve, okay? Next big thing is happening on Saturday, and that would be Saturn stations direct on the same day that we have a Venus-Neptune opposition in your 4th and 10th houses. So, 4th and 10th house, this is home, 4th house, and your public life, or your career, or what you're most known for, the 10th house, okay? Saturn turning direct is going to assist you in your 10th house. I know that sounds weird, especially if you come from a modern astrology background, but trust me, Saturn turning direct is like the ability to use that planet's archetype is easier. It's like it's easier to access. So Saturn in the 10th house can be rough. Won't lie. That is kind of a rough transit. It's making you be more responsible about your career choices. It's making you take on more responsibilities, right? It can feel quite heavy where all of a sudden you have to have this huge focus on your career, and sometimes home life suffers when that happens, when that shift kind of takes place. But what you're doing here, the work that you're doing in this house, is setting you up for long-term success. Saturn, the whole point is to build a strong foundation, okay? So as Saturn is turning direct on Saturn's day, Saturn turns direct, that's kind of wild. It's almost like the things that you know you need to do in order to set yourself up for success later down the road, it's going to be easier for you to start doing those things, right? So hopefully while Saturn's been retrograde, you've been thinking about this and making plans so that as it turns direct, you can kind of hit the ground running, right? Now, this happening on the same day is kind of wild. The Venus-Neptune archetype combo, I mean, it can be helpful in some regards because, there's a little bit of a playful energy with Venus and a little bit of mystical energy with Neptune. That can be kind of nice and healing. So like on the highest end of the spectrum, it's like, okay, there's ice cream at home. And the promise of ice cream at home is helping me get through the workday. Whatever. That was a terrible example. I'm sorry. But it's that kind of idea. Like there's a sweet reward and it's assisting you in like getting through the hard stuff. All right. But it's not always the case, right? It's not always the case. With this kind of an opposition, it's more like, the cake is a lie. Okay, if you've played Portal, you get that reference. The cake can be a lie. So maybe don't eat the cake. J-Lo, you crack me up. Okay, but anyway, essentially, the only thing I gotta say is on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but energy peaking on Saturday, just be mindful that not everything is exactly how it appears. Okay, so you can definitely use this energy for a positive effect by making something sweeter and something nicer at home, and it being a soothing sanctuary kind of vibe, or it can be a huge distraction. Okay, so what I would say for you guys is it would be better to focus on the Saturnian qualities of the 10th house, or Saturn going through your 10th house rather, and just allow Venus to kind of do her thing, okay? But basically the message I've been saying for everybody is if it looks too good to be true, it probably isn't true, so just be mindful of that. Okay. Water break. Okay. So I almost want to say, like, if you are given some kind of opportunity or told about some kind of opportunity that you can take, give it until the end of the weekend. If the offer is still there, take it. But if it's like, oh, you have to rush and you have to make your decision now, don't do it. It's like a huge like buyer's remorse kind of energy. Yeah, like best case scenario, and you just got defrauded out of a ton of money. Worst case scenario. Okay, so Gemini, what do I got? The Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so take it slow. Just as I was saying, take it slow. The Knight of Pentacles is more about solidifying and making sure that what grounds have been gained already are sustainable and able to be maintained before continuing to expand outwards some more. That's the Knight of Pentacles. He's deliberate. He's careful. He plans. When he's planting the seeds, he's got a solid garden plan of what each seed is and where it's going and its needs. It's not a chaotic thing. It's a very measured thing. And then immediately after that, death. Okay, so interesting. Alrighty, so the other thing that the Knight of Pentacles is very aware of is the fact that in order to feed life, there must be some death. Every gardener is well aware of how compost works. What's compost? I like to ask this. What is compost? It's matter that was alive, that died, that was recycled by the worms and the bugs and the bacteria and the fungus, where it gets hot enough where all of the pathogens are cooked out. It goes through a very serious alchemy, right? It's a chemical process that compost is really. And at the other end, after it's been cooking for long enough, you have this rich, mineral-rich, nitrogen-rich soil that you can feed your plants with, right? So this is a process that you're going through right now, Gemini. There's things that still need to be maybe taken out from your life. Something that still needs to be removed from your life in order to make room for further growth. This is not a quick process. This is a slow process. And I'm looking for the last card here. There it is. Oh, beautiful. Okay, I love that. That's beautiful. So it's not a fast process. It's a very slow process. And I know for for an archetype like Gemini, that can be extremely frustrating. But trust me with this. There's value in taking things slow. And being really thorough, right? Like Mercury wants to do things really quick. That's just Mercury's archetype, especially Mercury with Mars. It's like, nope, I need it now. But guess what? You can't have it now. You kind of have to slow it down a little bit. So, okay, back to the compost metaphor. What happens if you put compost on the garden before it's done cooking? You cook your plants. I don't know if you've ever done this, where you think the compost is done, but it's still too hot. Like literally, it's too fucking hot. You put it on the garden, and then all of a sudden, your beautiful plants just fucking die. Yeah, that's a thing. So take it slow. Give it a little bit of time. Give it a little bit of space to finish cooking, right? Because at the end of the road, look at that beautiful Ace of Cups. There's the promise of completion after the labor. Like, quite literally. That's really gorgeous, Gemini. So give it some space, give it some time. Whatever it is that you're going through, it's for a purpose, it's for a reason. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Some of the crazy astrological weather is not finished, but it'll be okay, right? I think the Ace of Cups is really just saying, like, this too shall pass, and there are moments of reprieve and relief in amidst the chaos. Stick with whatever changes you're going through, because it's quite literally providing fertilizer for some new growth down the road. So Taurus. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Bull gang. Okay. Taurus. If you are a Taurus rising, Taurus sun, or a Taurus moon, I would love to hear from you some stories about how this eclipse cycle went for you. As you guys know, the lunar eclipse was very much kind of like a closing a chapter, right? It was the last eclipse in Taurus. Now we're moving on with the nodes in the Aries Libra axis, but it's almost like, okay, yeah, we closed one door, we finished this chapter, but there's still some major aspects that have to play out in this first seventh house. So it's kind of like this is the epilogue that we're going through right now. So Thursday, we have this Jupiter-Sun opposition in your first and seventh house. Okay, so first house is you. That's your body. That's your vitality, your personality, your mind. Okay, seventh house is your partner. All right, so the Sun-Jupiter opposition, I think, is actually a really fun one for Taurus. Okay, so Jupiter and Sun tend to amp each other up, especially at this point in their cycle, where they're opposing one another. It's like, especially with like, even more so with Mars involved. It's like, yeah, oh yeah, I can do one better. Oh yeah, I can do one better. And this competitive spirit is, I think, especially for you guys, you and Scorpio, I think is going to be a good thing. It's a positive thing. There's the potential there for it to be a little bit dangerous. So be a little bit cautious. You know, you don't want to go so crazy that you end up challenging each other to something stupid and then getting hurt. So please don't do that. But all in all, I actually think that this is more positive than not, especially if the challenge from the other helps you break free from something. It helps you kind of like break out of your shell, or helps you kind of like shake off the remnants of the eclipse, the eclipse energy. So that's Thursday. That'll be a fun day, I think, for you guys. And hopefully it doesn't turn into something that could be like competitive in a fun way and turns into a combative way. Try to avoid that. Gesundheit. Okay, so anyway, Saturday. By the way, if you are a Taurus rising, that means that Venus is your ruling planet. So any transits that are happening to your natal Venus, or any transits that are happening with Venus in the sky are very impactful for you. Okay, so Saturday, we have this Venus opposing Neptune on the same day that Saturn turns direct in Pisces. So, Venus, by the way, even though it is considered to be in fall in Virgo, this is the house that Venus rejoices in. Venus rejoices in the fifth house. Why? It's all about pleasure and fun and artistry and romance and all of that lovely stuff. Okay, so this has the potential to be a really nice aspect for you guys. It's kind of like, honestly, over the weekend, lean into your artistic side. That's the best advice I can give you, is just lean into the artistic side. I'm getting some interesting kind of like warnings for a lot of people where it's like there's a high potential to be defrauded or scammed. So really be cautious of that, especially since the fifth house can be tied to things like gambling and like quick wins. And the 11th house is sometimes associated with like long-term investments or rewards and stuff like that. Essentially, basically the biggest piece of advice is if it seems too good to be true, or you're not getting all of the details right off the bat, don't do it. Wait until the end of the weekend. Wait until the energy kind of blows over and you can look at it with a logical mind, and then make your decision. Right? Don't just jump right in 2 feet first, or head first rather, and then end up regretting it later. Please don't do that. Anyway, Saturn turning direct is actually really good news. Saturn turning direct. So since Saturn rules your 10th house, since Saturn rules your 10th house, if you have been experiencing any kind of like holdups with work, or maybe you've taken on a bunch of responsibilities, but they actually feel like too much for you, or you've been struggling with that or whatever. Saturn turning direct is, especially in the 11th house, it's kind of like some of that eases a little bit. So you find some creative solutions, or I almost get the sense of like Saturn is helping you like delegate some tasks to other people that can help you get things done faster or better. It's like doling out some of the tasks to people that can, maybe they have a different way of looking at it, and help you find a more efficient way to get her done, right? I like that. Anyway. All right, Taurus. What do we got for cards for you? All right, Taurus. Oh, nice. Empress just came out for you, Taurus. Always good to see cards that correspond with the sign show up in a reading. That's a really good sign. So anyway, Venus, the Empress. Really lean into that 5th house energy, right? Venus in the 5th house. You are attracting opportunities to you right now. Okay. There's magnetic or alluring quality that you're giving off at the moment, and it's magical. It's nothing short of magic. So lean into it, use it. The next card out is the Nine of Wands. Nine of Wands, I really feel like this is kind of hearkening back to the fact that y'all just went through some crazy eclipse cycles with Uranus, which was wild. I kind of just get the sense that, like, instinctively that it's not quite completely fully over yet, but you've come so far, so don't you dare give up, right? There's support right behind you, right? There's people or counselors or advisors or friends that you can call on, that you can ask for assistance from. The Nine of Wands is, I actually really love this card. So it looks rough. Okay, it looks rough, but it's really about the determination that people have. Okay, the determination. When faced with an impossible task, what do you do? Do you buckle, or do you just start plugging away at it? Do you just start going for it? And when it gets to the point of almost being complete, do you give up at the last moment? There's a saying from, and it's an AA saying. This is so part of me, but it goes, "Don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle." Right? That's what this card is saying. Don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle. And then Taurus, the last card that actually came out for you was actually the Five of Pentacles. So remember what I was just saying about not falling for a cheap trick or something that seems way too good to be true, or it's like the promise of a win, even though it's something that has to do with gambling or something like that. Make sure that you are keeping a level head about those things, and that you're not being sold a pipe dream. The other thing with the Five of Pentacles is, like, you know how I was just saying, like, there's advisors, there's people around you that you can ask for assistance. Same thing with this Five of Pentacles. There might be a lot of stressful situations happening at the moment, right? Again, eclipse season, first 7th axis, that was kind of crazy, but all these people need to do is turn around and go into that building, and they can receive help. They can receive assistance. So I really feel like if you feel like you need to give up and you've been fighting really hard with something, maybe fighting against something or fighting for something, whatever it is, don't be afraid to ask for assistance. Ask for help from others, especially while you're under this really cool Jupiter Sun opposition. So yeah, there's definitely the spirit of competition and the spirit of amping each other up and whatnot. But at the same time, like, these are friendly archetypes. The Sun and Jupiter, they're friendly. So make use of that, right? Make use of somebody else's wisdom or somebody else's opinion or way of viewing things or their resources. All you got to do is ask for their help, though. And not be so pig-headed, haha, or bull-headed, Taurus, right? Don't be so bull-headed that you're not willing to admit when you might need some assistance. Okay, so anyway, that's it. But anyway, really, just lean into this Venusian energy. It's there and it's accessible. And underneath the deck, also 3 of Cups. That's beautiful. So there's room to celebrate and there's reason to celebrate. Just yeah, there's room and there's reason to celebrate. It's just that you can't give up before you're finished the job. That's all. Don't give up, never surrender. Okay, Aries. Aries, last but not least. Okay. So for you guys, da, 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 da. All right, so Aries. So a couple things. If you were an Aries rising, that means that Mars is your ruling planet. All right. So anything that is transiting your natal Mars, or when Mars is making some major aspects in the chart, this is happening directly to you. Okay. So Mars right now, before I go into the rest of it, I touched on this a little bit last week, but I want to touch on it again a little bit before I go into the rest. Mars is going through a bit of an underworld journey at the moment, right? Later on this month, Mars will be meeting up with the Sun in the sign of Scorpio. It's the first time they've met up in Scorpio in 32 years. So November of 1991 was the last time this occurred in Scorpio. It's a brand new cycle for you. And specifically for you in the 8th house, it's going to be about facing, I think actually it'll be about facing fears and facing the fear of the unknown and fear of death head on. Definitely going to be interesting. We'll go into that a little bit more later, but the lunar eclipse was like the final chapter on the eclipse saga in your 2nd and 8th houses, but there's still some themes playing out for you, okay? So 2nd, 8th axis, I'm sure you're sick to death of me describing these houses for you, but the 2nd house has a lot to do with your finances, your resources, and the 8th house has to do with other people's resources and the shared goals that you have with others, okay? So this Jupiter Sun opposition that we were experiencing on Thursday, actually this is kind of, it's a little bit more of a fun transit, I feel. Jupiter and Sun tend to like amp each other up quite a bit. And then with Mars there as well on Sun's side, there's like an additional kind of, how do I put it, like spirit of competitiveness or, yeah, just like the spirit of competitiveness, I think is the best way to describe it. But it's like the epilogue on the long ass book that was the eclipse season, right? This is like the cleanup crew. So anyway, interesting opposition. Be mindful about your spending, basically, is the best thing I could say about that is, don't go too crazy with any spending with Jupiter reaching the peak in his cycle with the Sun, because you definitely can. Because it's like there could be an increase in funds with the Jupiter Sun opposition, but also a lavishness, especially Jupiter in Taurus, a lavishness and a desire for luxuries can definitely take over. So just be cautious of that. Don't go crazy with it. So Saturday, the next kind of big thing that's happening this week is on Saturday, on Saturn's day, Saturn turns direct, and at the same time that Venus perfects her opposition with Neptune. So this axis here, the 6-12 axis, a little bit more difficult. Okay. The biggest thing about this really that I gotta say is when it comes to habits that you might have that cause you to self-sabotage, Saturn turning direct is going to help you root those out and implement some kind of discipline, right? That's a big theme with Saturn, is responsibility and discipline for sure. But really, as Saturn is turning direct, any kind of like troubles that you're experiencing with your career or with the groups that you were involved with, or even with, kind of like mental health issues or more spiritually based, energetic based ish. Saturn turning direct can help you kind of like put the plans into motion that you had begun and started to kind of implement before this point. Okay. So that's kind of good news. However, it's happening at the same time as this Venus-Neptune opposition, which is interesting. It might be really tempting, Aries, to resort to escapism or, trying to... escapism is really broad, but I'm leaving it broad on purpose. Escapism or addictive tendencies or behaviors, not even substances, but go into just behaviors to kind of deal with whatever kind of like issues have been pressing on your mind, right? And like video games count as part of that, right? It doesn't have to be a substance. Try to avoid that if you can. It's definitely a tempting energy for sure, but it's a quick one, right? Like Venus moves pretty fast. And as soon as, it's almost like as soon as she's done with this aspect, she moves into Libra, and that's a much nicer energy to deal with. So I almost want to say like this weekend, it might be really tempting to like kind of go overboard into whatever kind of your jam, your poison is, but try not to do that. Try to keep your head above water, so to speak. Okay. Now what do we got for cards? I'm losing my voice. Oh no. Okay. What do we have for cards for Aries? Whoa. There's like 20 cards that just tried to come out. It's too many, man. Alright, let's see. Aries, Aries, Aries. Getting sloppy. Why? Oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, we got the Fool. The Fool. Brand new beginning. I like that. Trusting in spirit. I like that a lot too. Relieving yourself of too many burdens. What are you afraid of, Aries? What is it that holds you back the most, that stops you from beginning a journey in the first place? Kind of seems like there's some kind of underlying fear, something kind of tugging at your psyche. And honestly, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, Saturn can be anxiety and fears major, major, major. I actually feel like Saturn turning direct in your 12th house is a lifting of some of those anxieties. It's like up until this point, especially since Cancer season, it's almost like there was more heaviness and more anxiety and fear that maybe you didn't even know where it was coming from. But now that it's turning direct, it's like some of that is easing a little bit, or maybe you're just facing it a little bit more head on. Like, okay, I see you, motherfucker. I see you, and I'm not going to let you hold me back anymore. I like this, actually, because by the end of the week, we've got the 9 of Cups coming out. So this is beautiful, all right? Releasing some fears, trusting in the divine and a higher force, right? Keeping your instincts intact, relieving yourself of some heavy burdens, facing your fears, and then it's like there's this huge sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that comes with accomplishing, even if you're not successful in whatever endeavor it is that you're trying to do, but you've just faced your fear and began something regardless of having some kind of, crazy feelings about it. Even just doing that is a huge victory in and of itself. And that's what's coming out here with the 9 of Cups. There's this immense satisfaction. Like look how smug he is. You see that? He's so satisfied and grounded and stable. It's like no matter what is thrown at him, no matter what kind of crazy emotional or psychic kind of milieu he's wading through, he's got it. He's grounded. He's solid. He's stable. You see that? I like that. That's awesome for you, Aries. Remind yourself. Maybe you need to remind yourself, I am the warrior. Like, come on. What are you afraid of exactly? So, bravery, by the way, bravery doesn't mean that you're not afraid of anything. Bravery is actually just acting in the face of that fear and doing it anyway. So that's what I got for you, Aries. You fucking got this. Okay. Bam. That was it. Wow. What did we do? How many hours? 3.5? That's pretty good. Okay. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. JLo, you are the woman. So if any of you guys would like a personal reading, just remember to hit me up. Use the code Scorpio15 for 15% off, whether you are a first timer, you've never had a reading with me before, whether you have done a natal chart reading and you want to do a follow-up return journey, you want to look at some transits coming up, anything like that, same code, 15% off. If you want to do a private tarot reading, same code, 15% off. Just use the link in the chat to go to my website. And yeah, I will be back next Monday. And next Monday, we'll be talking about the new moon at Scorpio, which will be quite a doozy. It'll be the new moon with Mars opposing Uranus. It'll be kind of crazy. So I'll definitely be here to talk about that. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, you guys have a lovely day and happy Monday. See ya.